We'll figure
Well,
that out as we go.
we're going. So,
Awesome. Okay. Whatever this is, I don't know what we're gonna call this.
no name
So
yet.
great. No name yet. Great start. But we're gonna talk about Lord of the Flies
I think.
and
I'll go for it.
the new. Oh, I was just gonna say that specifically the new. It's Netflix, right?
Yeah.
I didn't. Well, I thought it was, and then I noticed that it's BBC Productions
hmm
is listed at the beginning of all of it. So I wasn't sure if it was a maybe not Netflix exclusive, but to get it over to the US, Netflix did it. But
I think it is a really interesting discussion on this one, just because um, I feel like no one's talked about it at all, and I feel like it's a very interesting time for it to come out too. Because I
hmm
pulled up a list of shows that have come out this year so far, and Night of the Seven Kingdoms stands out in a very glaring way because the rest of it is not ideal, I'd say. Let's see what we got here. Okay, Stranger Things ended literally on the first day of the year, which is kind of
and
the way to start.
it was very controversial. Or at least from what I
We're
saw,
still
it was
waiting for
very
the actual
controversial.
last episode though, so it could be good.
Oh yeah, no, secret season. We got a secret season coming, and it may take 30 years, but the true fans, we will wait those 30 years, won't we? Um,
Yep.
yeah, you had Night of Seven Kingdoms. Boys just ended.
Well, before we even get to the boys, I don't know. Do you have any Star Trek friends, like Trekkies?
No, I've never seen an episode of Star
I
Trek.
know two people that really like Star Trek, and they were quite upset with a show called Starfleet Academy that came out, I think, the second week of the year. And I know you've forgotten this, but Wonder Man, of course,
Oh, Wonder
Wonder
Man.
Man.
Oh my gosh.
And Marvel had two shows already. They had Born Again 2 and Punisher special on top of Wonder Man, which is absolutely hilarious. Euphoria's not done, but I've heard not great things about Euphoria. Darth Maul Edgelord, of course.
Oh,
I
jeez.
started that and I could not finish it. I thought it was really kind of stupid. And then I saw clips of him
Haven't
like
even watched
fighting
it.
Darth Vader. And I was like, oh my gosh. They cannot function without like Vader or original people.
Well, I mean, that's the state they're in, so
Good
not to derail
Omens.
too much.
Yeah, that's a bad omen. But Good Omens is on Amazon, and that just got its final season. I watched season 1 when it came out. I thought it was fine. But my roommate was telling me how awful it ended, which is I don't really care at all. That's just another it's an interesting discussion cuz you talk about Amazon. Obviously, The Boys just ended. Has Amazon ever made a good show? Like just one?
Invincible season one. It's not an original thing,
That's not
obviously,
the
but neither is The
show.
Boys.
That's just the season of a show, like a full
Oh, okay,
show.
you're saying a full show, a
Have
full
they ever
show.
made a good
Okay.
show? Ever?
Um, what else have they made? I honestly don't know a lot of stuff that they've made. Um, let's see, they made Fallout. Did they that was not good in my
Nope.
opinion. I didn't like Fallout.
There's things I like about Fallout, but I didn't. It's not a good show.
Yeah,
Especially when your show's carried by 1 to 1.5 characters,
and
and it just
like
doesn't make
it
any
falls
sense.
apart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's Boys Invincible, Rings of Power,
No, not that one.
Tomb Raider's
Not
coming
that one.
out.
Oh, Tomb
They're
Raider.
gonna.
Very
I like Tomb
geez.
Raider.
I can't even.
That's
Yeah,
what I
no. Is
think.
there?
I genuinely don't think even FX, like FX has made Shogun. HBO has a litany of really solid shows. Even Disney Plus has Andor. Like
Yep.
it's crazy. I don't think Amazon has a single thing. Not one. Netflix
No.
has good shows too. But no. That's just the dire state of shows because I was looking at all those and I was like, oh, those are bad. There's some okay ones that I heard that have come out that I just haven't seen, like One Piece season 2. There's one called Rooster
hmm
with Steve Carell that I heard is fine. The Pit,
Oh,
Beef season 2, Industry season
yep.
4. But then we've got what's coming up as far as shows go. You have Outer Banks season 5.
Oh,
Um,
awesome,
awesome.
amazing.
Ted Lasso. I haven't seen those, but I've heard people
I haven't
excited
seen
for
that.
it. Airbender season 2. I did not hear good things about season 1.
Neither did I.
Vision Quest is a maybe. I didn't they play
Vision
something for that,
Quest.
so that might come out this year. It also just might get
I
delayed forever.
Yeah, I would have to see the ad again. I'm completely blanking on anything for that.
Lanterns. I'm not gonna watch that.
Oh, that's a TV show?
Right?
I'm asking. I didn't know. I thought it was gonna be
I'm
a movie.
90% sure, but I don't actually know.
Let me look it up real quick.
Harry Potter.
Oh, that's gonna be interesting. That could go either way, in my opinion.
We'll see. I just think it's another one where at its best, it can't be as good as what's come before.
Yeah.
Rings of Power season 3. I'm gonna watch
Oh,
it.
keep it going.
I've
Keep it
watched all
going.
of them, and I've hated every second of it. But I'm this far in. Gotta keep punishing myself.
Gotta keep going.
Mando season 4 is out, except it's a movie.
Oh, true, true.
And
Going to the big screen.
the
Good for them.
the only other one that I'm like, I don't know, it could be good, but I'm a little nervous. I'm probably more nervous than optimistic is House of the Dragon 3. Cause actually, I was one of the few enjoyers of season 2. I think there's a lot of things to like about 2. There's a lot of problems with
Well,
2, but
they I think they're gonna go into it with possibly a lot of issues because you just had Night of the Seven Kingdoms. There's been so much talk. I see Game of Thrones everywhere now
yeah.
because of Night of the Seven Kingdom. I've seen so many people who are like influencers and they're like, "Yeah, I have been rewatching Game of Thrones." Or I started rewatching House of Dragons, or like they're getting back into it. So you
hmm
have a lot of buildup for this season 3, and it's they need to capitalize on it if they want to continue.
I don't want
I
to spend
think.
too much time on this because I think it'll be interesting to talk about later. But I think one of the biggest
Yeah.
worries is how season 2 kind of ended, where I feel like I think it was HBO that said, "Here, we'll give you a fourth season," and so they rushed. I think season 1 was 10 episodes, season 2 is 8, so they chopped off the last two, which I'm avoiding all spoilers from the book or whatever. But there's apparently a massive battle. Obviously, season 2 ends with everyone marching to a battle, and then it just ends. It's like a trailer. So that's concerning because that budget's not going to carry over. So the budget that they would have had for a big battle is now being used in 3 where there are other battles. So I think there's possible budget concerns, possible pace, like really big pacing concerns with like just spawning in a
Yes.
fourth season. And then I think they kind of did a lot of damage to some characters in season 2, primarily the main two, who, let's be real, I don't really care about them nearly as much as Aemond or Daemon or Aegon or Otto. Where's Otto? Just wasn't into Otto was like kind of a Tywin. I really liked Otto, especially in season 1. I feel like they rushed him out of 2, and I want to see him more, but I guess we'll get more Hightower stuff.
Yeah, and it's also a concern because usually budgets go like your first episode of a season has a decently high budget, and then you
Yeah.
kind of wane it off, depending on obviously depending on your content, but you usually wane it off because you want your climax at the end to have really high production value and everything. But you're locking yourself into this position where you are spending so much money on just bodies, people being there. Like there has to be all these people for this battle. You're possibly using a lot of CGI. And
Oh
then
yeah, they
what are you
have
gonna
to.
do?
There's a lot of dragons in it.
Oh yeah, that's true. There's a
But
whole house of
they
them.
have been posting a lot of behind the scenes, and it has looked awesome. The sets look sick. Like I think there's definitely a chance that it goes south, but I also think it could be really, really. It could be good. I don't know. I hope it's good.
I mean, I hope that I honestly think the biggest thing I want like HBO and a lot of these companies to learn especially with Lord of the Flies too, with something they did. 6 episodes, four
It was
episodes,
4. Yeah.
four very content rich episodes, and that's 4 hours. And Night of the Seven Kingdoms was what, like, was it eight
6.
episodes of
It was
six
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 30-minute
episodes?
episodes.
Yeah. So it's like you are having such rich, dense content packed in these episodes. And it's like, why do we need like 10 episodes that are an hour long each, where it's like half the time they're not even doing things I care about?
Well, it's really interesting because I think that is obviously Night of the Seven Kingdoms had a ton of buzz. Lord of the Flies didn't
Oh
really
yeah.
have any, so it
I don't think
I
people
didn't
know
hear
it's
anything.
there.
Yeah, it's a
I mean,
gem in the rough. If it's good, I don't know if it's actually good. We haven't
I
talked
found it
about it
from
yet.
you. I mean, I only watched it because you mentioned it.
Yeah.
You mentioned it one day in passing, and then you told me to watch it.
I guess the reason I
So
wanted
it's
to
like,
start on this and the reason I recommended it to you is because despite being my second favorite book that starts with the Lord of, it is one of my favorite books of all time. It's one that's kind of
mm,
mandatory to read in most schools, which I feel like at least for me, when I was tasked to read a book and do a bunch of assignments on it, I tended to hate that book. There's a few exceptions. I really liked Mice and
mhm.
Men, but Lord of the Flies was actually one that I read on my own before I was ever assigned to do it in school. And so I enjoyed that second read through a lot more, but that first one was really, really special. I actually think I was pretty sick when I was reading it, and so it was one of those like fever dream, very, very vivid, and yeah, like an
Oh.
instant favorite of mine as far as books go.
Yeah. So confession, I've actually never read Lord of the
Ooh,
Flies.
this will
I
be a
did.
fun discussion then.
It was not a required reading for me. I don't know. We probably had like other options. I don't know what we would have read instead, but in for me growing up, never read it. But so that was a very interesting thing because I going into this show, watching it, all I knew was
Oh,
basic
really?
premise. Yeah, so all I knew was basic premise. Boys get stuck on an island and they try to govern themselves. That's
Yeah.
all I knew. So it
Well,
was very, very interesting.
I think that that's a it kind of attests to what a cultural impact it's had. Like it is, even people that haven't seen it know the gist of it. It's like, man, when
Hmm.
a society kind of goes like a bunch of kids kind of go crazy on each other. It's Lord of the
Oh
Flies,
yeah.
right? They're going Lord of the Flies on
Hmm.
each other, even if they have no clue what on earth they're talking about. But
Oh yeah.
yeah.
So I guess I'll let you heed or take head on this first part.
Yeah, I do want to
Uh
start
talking about the book.
I want to start talking about the book. I think once we get into the episodes, I'll start like talking about where it diverges from the book and the changes that they've
Hmm.
made, and point out some things that I'm curious, like with the additional context, what you'll think of them. But I
Yeah.
think obviously the most important thing to start with is the author, William Golding, who, like, I feel like many authors kind of started out in war, and I think that kind of shows a lot of what's going on in this book. You have the naval captains and all these kids that are talking about their parents that are in the Navy, and the nuclear kind of, like, there wasn't a nuclear thing going on then, the way it's
Yeah.
portrayed in the book, but you have a lot of kind of references to these wars, and obviously you've Tolkien in World War I, and Roald
Hmm.
Dahl. Roald Dahl is another one where I feel like a lot of his books about kids are really inspired by having parents that aren't really there, or kind of like the effects that war have. And so I think it's really, really
Hmm.
cool. Not to mention, Golding fought in D-Day.
Oh,
Like, he
jeez.
was there on the
On the
beach.
beaches.
So he's got quite some stories. And then he went
Okay.
into writing. So we've got the book. I think the length of the
Hmm.
book is perfect. I can't remember exactly how many pages it is. It can't be more than 300.
I looked it up earlier because I was curious how long the book is, but I'd have to check again. But it was released in 1950,
Yeah.
correct?
hmm
So it yeah,
So
very soon after.
right around, because I think The Hobbit re-release. So The Hobbit was released in 37, but then he did a re-release of The
Hmm.
Hobbit and changed Riddles in the Dark pr- prominently so that he could write Fellowship of the Ring. And that came out in 51. So this is around, it's around the same. I think Lord of the Rings was late 50s as well. I'm pretty sure it
I
was.
think that's correct. Yeah.
So
So Lord of the Flies is 224 pages.
yeah,
So
it is a short
honestly,
read.
not
You
a
could do it in one sitting easily.
yeah, not a long book. But
One of the biggest inspirations behind it is a book called Coral Island. I don't know if you've heard of it. I personally haven't read it, but
no.
it's another one about kids on an island. Except this one's a lot more kind of like Robinson Crusoe, or not Robinson Crusoe, like Swiss Family Robinson. Like it is a, from what I understand, it's a picturesque ideal, like drinking from coconuts and kind of having
Oh,
a
yeah.
blast. And William Golding read it and he's like, that's not realistic. This is stupid. So he set out to make a book criticizing that. And I think that that's a reason why criticism's important, because it often leads to
Hmm.
better things.
Oh yeah.
And so his issues with the book Coral Island, which he actually does throw jabs at, like specifically in this book, is a big reason why he ended up even starting to write it. Leads to better
That's
things,
yeah.
criticism.
That's very good. And like it's not even only criticism. It's like he noticed a gap in a story that he's like, well, my perspective is different.
Hmm.
This is what I think would happen, and like that's how you get like innovation on these stories.
Yeah. Kind of spoiler alert, not really. I feel like most of the things I really like about the book can easily be discussed when talking about the show, because it is mostly pretty faithful to at least the themes of it. So I won't go too much into
Hmm.
those. I think we can get right into talking about the show. There's a few things that I mentioned, like changes in my notes, but did you look up the kind of the behind the scenes of the show, or kind of how they did some of the
Yeah,
stuff?
I did watch the behind the scenes of the Netflix like hour long, which is crazy because it's just the same length as a normal episode. They just have an hour, and it's like really packed full of stuff.
Yeah.
If you haven't watched the behind the scenes or the making of the Lord of the Flies, um, but yeah, what do you want to talk specifically about that? Because I think there was a lot of interesting things
The
that they
techniques
talked
that
about.
they do are really cool, but I think it's important. I started talking about the book by talking about the author. I think it's kind of important to talk about the director. Do you know much about Jack Thorne, the showrunner?
I do not know much about him, but it was very interesting to see what people had said where his directing style. They kept making comments about how it's different.
Yeah.
His approach is very different, and they're saying he's not approaching it like a director. He's approaching it kind of. I think one guy said he's approaching it like a painter, which I thought was
I think
interesting.
it is, and that could honestly, because he works with the cinematographer a lot. I feel like both of them are very abstract in kind of what they do. But
Hmm. Oh,
as far as
he's good.
what he's done, you think about the shows this year, and it's not been great, but it was a similar deal last year, I would say. You had some exceptions. I think Andor season 2 is just so good, it's so awesome. But my standout was a 4 episode Netflix series by the same guy called Adolescence, and it led to the child
Oh,
actor getting probably the
he's.
youngest Golden Globe, or some sort of award for best actor. And I was
Mhm.
floored by that show. I'd heard a lot about it, and I was driving buses up in Alaska. And if you don't know the premise, it's about a kid who is brought in immediately in the first episode, accused of stabbing a girl to death. And so not only is every episode one shot, like it is one take through and through. They start in his house. The camera follows them into a car, which goes to the police station. Like every moment of that episode, and it ends back at his house because they hook the camera up to a drone in the last minute. So if anything goes wrong with probably the most complicated shot, they do the whole 40 something minutes again. So very technically complicated, but again, this guy's ability to direct this kid was absolutely, this kid was insane. He was really, really good. And it was just a really heartfelt, really somber show. I remember, because I think everyone should see it. I don't want to talk too much about it outside of the premise, but I remember when the episode finished, I was kind of like, wait, there's not more. It's what is he trying to say there? Because it ends in a very interesting, like, unique spot. Not a spot it doesn't feel like there's closure initially, but you also just feel so depressed. I was driving buses, like tour buses in Alaska, and after I finished it, I think it was on a break, which isn't the ideal way to watch it, but I just didn't even tour my group. I couldn't function really.
Uh-oh.
I was in a really really bad spot after it kind of messed with me a lot, but it was really powerful and really good. And so when I heard, cuz I've been hearing about a rated R TVMA Lord of the Flies adaptation for years. I feel like it's been 5 or 6 years that I've been hearing about this, and I didn't know it had come out. My roommate told me, "Hey, this just came out." And when I looked into it and I found out it was the same director, as adolescents, I thought, "Oh, this could be something really, really special. This could be,
Hmm.
I know this guy can direct children, which is really, really hard to do. And I'm curious to see what he's got. So,
And I think it's not only his directing. I don't know if like watching that the making of the Lord of the Flies really showed me whoever they have finding these kids is insane. You're
yeah.
watching you're watching not only the main four, Simon, Jack, Ralph, and Piggy.
Piggy.
You're not only watching the four of them who I thought were solid. They're
Yeah.
great the whole time. And they're talking about it, and they're talking about this acting at like a high level that I see so many times, not even like adult actors who have been acting their whole life talk about acting. Not only that, you have like random clips with like side characters or like Roger and Maurice, and they're
I was
also
going to
talking about
say,
it in the same way.
yeah, some of those
And it's
characters you
like
mentioned are
crazy.
wild. Yeah.
But and like also the limitations they were under. He said in the documentary they couldn't have the kids there past 6.
No?
So they're doing all day for night, which is crazy because I think
Insane.
episode 3 happens entirely at night for the most
Pretty
part.
much.
Like the whole 40 minutes or an hour, and I think it's an hour and 1 minute, is at night. And you also have you're filming day for night, and you have that in camera look where they have a filter on that makes it infrared but doesn't touch the skin tones, so all the trees are green. And it's like
Sometimes
this is
they're tinted a little
crazy.
red though. That's what I really like
Yeah.
in the day for night. You'd look at
Oh.
the
Mm-hmm.
leaves and they're red, and you go, "Ooh, that
It was
definitely evokes
super
kind of a
trippy.
tone that's really weird."
And that was I think that was my favorite part. And that's the thing I was wondering the whole time. I was like, that's a big load to take on in editing to change all the greens without messing up skin tone or like anything else. And it's just they had a filter on the camera. It's
Yeah.
all in camera.
And they
It's
shot it.
crazy.
They shot it remotely in some little island in Malaysia.
Yes.
With all this going, all the tech issues that you could have, you're so far away
The
from
wind.
replacements, winds, and then you again have all these kids just in the middle of nowhere. The whole
And
crew.
you're boating in and out. So
Yeah.
they said they couldn't have the kids after 6. So that means they're probably ending a day at like 4 or 5. I don't know how far they had to boat in, but like that's crazy to me.
It's so cool.
That is you got they got a lot done in 4 episodes with such constraints. And I don't even know if they're all constraints. Like I think the biggest motivation or like the biggest thing that can drive a creative to make something good is those limitations and how
Hmm.
they overcome them.
Well, I think of Spielberg a little bit. I think Spielberg is still wildly talented, obviously, but I feel like he's nowhere near banger after banger after banger. And from what I've heard with a lot of interviews with people that worked with him, he had a lot of people to tell him no in those early projects. And once you get to a certain level, same with George Lucas, you have less and less people there that are able to tell you no, or to give you restrictions. Like the more you have, the more it's like, oh, well, I don't know. But these guys,
Hmm.
the logistics behind this are quite insane. Like it would
Hmm.
seem insurmountable from my perspective. I can't believe they pulled it off.
Yeah, and I don't know how long they were filming for, but I know that in the beginning of the documentary that said I think 2024 they filmed this, or 2023 or 2024. So this is a couple years ago they started filming. There's one
Yeah,
line where they ask the director what's his favorite thing he's gotten so far, and he asks today or the past 4 months. So they were at least filming for 4 months, and it's like on this island, everything could go wrong.
yeah,
They're probably losing entire days to storms and wind and rain because
absolutely.
it's all outside. What can you do? And you're working these kids for, I think the older kids, so like the main four and like Maurice and Roger and all the older kids are working like 8 hour days, and the younger kids they only have for
The
like, I think he
youngins.
said yeah, he said you had them, the little ones, you had them for like 6 hours, and it's like that is not a lot of time for getting a full day done, because
Yeah,
it could take, transitioning between those shots could take up a huge chunk of your time.
absolutely. Crazy. It is. It's crazy. It's crazy what they
It,
do.
it's well, absolutely wild.
Um, that's all I have. Like we've talked about the color. I think a lot of that was obviously the in camera, but the editing as well. I think the colorist did a
Oh,
fantastic job.
I loved the editing actually. I don't know. So when I started episode one, not to get too ahead,
Yeah.
but when I started episode one, the first couple things I noticed was um you had subtle in sound design. You had these subtle like I couldn't tell what it was. It sounded like people either talking in the background or like it just, you could hear something in the background that was a human voice. And I was like, oh, is this like supposed to be like they're foreshadowing, like you're hearing people talking or like screaming? Because it didn't sound like a normal, like just people talking. It was Piggy's breath. They had underlaid in like episode one just constant like just constant breathing because Piggy has asthma. And it's like that is
Asmar.
an insane thing. And yeah, it was insane. And they're also doing jump cuts, but
Mhm.
like they're not doing it's not like, oh, this is an amateur editor accidentally putting two clips together thinking it will work. They are from the start. I think it's in like the first 3 minutes. There's a jump cut where Piggy's jumping over a little stream, and it's just this unsettling subtle thing that a lot of people will catch and they won't really like know why it's unsettling. They do another good one when Jack's running through the forest to get, I think he's chasing after a pig,
Yeah.
or he's running up a hill or something, and they keep cutting to a shot in front of Jack and then like a shot behind Jack for like 2 frames, and it's just creating these weird jump cuts that are super unnerving and unsettling. And then honestly, the music, the choice to do only like a boys choir music for the most part, and then like strings for when it's like they have like the happy, so like the song when nothing's going wrong and it's like mostly strings,
Mhm.
and then they have a boys choir. And I think by the end of episode 4 it is no longer a boys choir, it is a solo boy singing. But the thing that's interesting throughout all of it is the boys choir is incomplete. There is supposed to be more to the song that you can like kind of hear is missing. So by the end, it's just one boy singing one part.
Because it's collapsed, right?
Yeah, because it's gone.
It's so
It's
cool.
it is a it is so good. But
Well, let's go episode by episode here.
yeah,
I want to start out kind of in episode 2 a little bit before we get into episode 1. Not like the full thing, but
okay.
there's something that's pretty interesting about that. In the book, this was actually cut by the editor, but you have the lore behind it being a nuclear war evacuation. Um,
Oh,
why they're
okay.
on the plane, I don't think. And again, I glanced over the book just to refresh a little bit, but I didn't have time to like fully read it. I don't think they really mentioned too many details about what they were doing on the plane or why they're there as much, and there was a lot more to that. But the show, and like I said, I can't remember exactly what episode it is. It's been probably 2 weeks since I watched it. But
Mhm.
I think it's episode 2, where chronologically it starts with them evacuating a nuclear war, which I think is really cool for them to do, because I feel like in a show, especially if you're going to add things, it's important to be very deliberate about what you include. And I think to pull from, okay, this was actually written and this was actually cut. Like, yeah, I think it's really cool. And it shows that not only do they care so much about what is in the book, but they're looking for what used to be in the book and is no longer there. I think it
Oh,
shows a lot of
they
respect for that.
yeah, that I don't know because I just before we started this watched the whole thing for the making of Lord of the Flies. So going back to that again, the director talks or no, it was the writer. He talks about how they sat down with the daughter of William Golding and
Oh yeah, yeah.
talked to her about anything he said about the book.
That's crazy. I didn't know
And
that actually.
so they took so much care to make sure that this is like a faithful adaptation. And that's another thing I actually really loved is I think we're in an age where it's like, oh, we want to adapt something.
Yeah.
What if we modernize it? What if we make it modern? But I think this is so important to be set in the 1950s, and there's like the fact that it's set in the 1950s still. It's all British. It's a British boys' school. It's all like you didn't change anything. It is 100%. Well, obviously they changed stuff, but like the main premise is still
Yeah.
there, intact, 100%.
Well, I think that is an important thing, that they're respectful of the source material, and frankly, I think the bar for writing back then was just a lot higher. So if you were to adapt stories, like, that's a really good place to look. Some of those classic books, but I think this actually does make modern, I guess the way you put it, modern changes, but it's done tastefully, and it is quite subtle to the point where you almost don't catch it. But I do feel like it is definitely, like, changes are made to make it more relevant to today, but not in a stupid way. Like, I feel like a lot of things try and, like, Wuthering Heights. I don't know if you
Oh
saw
yeah,
that. That was
I did not.
that was interesting from what I hear that they did to that. Or other things.
Hmm.
And even just what they'd show us in school. Like, I think we read Fahrenheit 451, and they showed us a like modern Michael B. Jordan version of 451, or Animal Farm that just came out, that changes everything to be more
Yeah,
modern. Like, they make changes, but they're not good. And or they're
and
not thought out well.
yeah, and it's like honestly, I don't know what you'd change because
You'll
like
see, you'll see. And I think some of the changes are
yeah,
quite interesting.
I yeah. Let's just yeah, I don't
So
know.
yeah, that's the
We'll get
first,
into
I
them.
guess, change. But the episode starts out with Piggy. Well, okay, this is
Mhm.
this is technically the first change. So the book is told third person omniscient. So obviously from an
Uh-huh.
outwards perspective. And so I guess the first fundamental change is to follow each one of the four main boys, each episode, and to kind of go
Hmm.
from their perspective. And when I heard that, I was like, man, I'm really curious which boys, or like which order they're actually going to focus on, because all of them with, I mean, we can get, if you're listening to it this far, you know who dies and who lives. So I don't think Simon had any shot of being the last one, because he dies fairly early on.
No.
But even then, you're like, okay, I could see Piggy being any of them. I could be Ralph. Ralph could have been any of them. Jack could have been any of them. What are they gonna do? And I was a
Yeah.
little skeptical at first, but I think they really nailed down the order. And starting with Piggy was pretty cool.
Yeah. I thought it was interesting that Jack was the second one um
Yeah, me too. Me
because
too.
Jack for I mean,
I thought he was gonna be closer to the last or third, maybe.
yeah, not that this is like revolutionary, but for those who don't know, Piggy represents like the voice of reason and represents like
He's logic.
he's logic and intelligence. Jack is like the innate human nature to just be free and free to the point where it is just like chaos and disorder.
Well,
And
I'd say
then
impulse, because it's not always
yeah,
bad things that he
it's not
does. He
always
does good
bad.
things, but they're always impulsive. And I think
Hmm.
because William Golding wanted to kind of personify all these things that leaders could possess, that either for better or for worse. And I think
Yeah.
impulse is Jack's thing, from what I understand.
Yeah. And then Simon is a more leader from like a religious standpoint. Simon, I think that is one thing in my opinion they kind of failed to
Yeah, I
fully
agree.
embrace in the movie or in the show is you don't really understand Simon is supposed to be religious to the extent that I think he is portrayed in the book. But again, I haven't read the book, so I could be misinterpreting. And then uh Ralph, he is like he just is a charismatic person who kind of embodies like the ideal, like can gather people to like lead them. And it's also democracy, and that's also seen in the conch. So to tell these it's for me, Jack being the second one there was really interesting because he's you're getting him in before the impulses lead to the bad, and it's even before really the turning point because the turning point kind of happens at the end of that and then more so in episode 3 with Simon.
Yeah. I as we go through episode by episode, we definitely do. I think I've written down, yeah, pretty much what each character represents. So we can go further into depth as we go along, but we do
Hmm.
start with Piggy, being logical pretty much right off the bat, and the way that it's shot is kind of cool too, because it's right after the crash, and it's incredibly
Hmm.
disorienting. Lots
Very
of
close.
fisheye to the
Hmm.
point where
Oh,
this is probably my first gripe with the show. I think the fisheye works really well, especially at first, but I definitely think they overused it a little bit. It got really, really distracting for me pretty
it
quickly.
that and all like for me it was turning it on and seeing that this is in it's in anamorphic. It's in
Mm,
2 by 39 or
2.39.
239.1. Yeah. And then you have a fisheye, and it's like not like a slight fisheye. It's a fisheye to the extent where if you look at the corners of the screen,
Yeah.
you actually see black because there is no. You've distorted the frame so much that there's nothing there.
And furthermore, when you have a fisheye, obviously like the wider your lens gets, the bokeh or like the background is not going to be as blurred. So when you have like a 14, you're gonna everything's gonna be pretty much in focus, especially if your aperture's like higher. If
Hmm.
you get up to, I don't know, if they went up to 10 or whatnot, but obviously most movies or whatnot are tend to shoot at a really low f stop, and so it was really weird for me to see a fisheye lens that was incredibly like blurred. Like the background was constantly blurred, and I think there was a lot of issues
Hmm.
with focus in the first episode, especially where it's like, man, I see all the boys and I see the whole environment, but this random rock is in focus, and I
Yeah.
feel like I think I can't remember exactly what it was. Maybe it was the conch, but I remember it feeling it's like, yeah, I get that you want that thing to be in focus and everything else to be blurred, but there is so much more being blurred that it's hard to find what's in focus.
Yeah. And something that got me was there is, and I can't tell if I really liked it or disliked it. It was just different and interesting in a sense. There is like very little wides. They use the wides very sparingly. You are on someone like for the majority of episodes.
Mm,
Like you're on you're like it's like not like over the shoulder. It's like you are on them. You're so close to them. There's so many extreme close-ups where you are seeing like not the top of their head, and you're seeing like just chin to eyebrow,
yeah,
and it makes it like I can't like it could make it feel more personal and make it feel like you're there, but also sometimes it felt like distracting. Um, there was a long time where I was watching it and I had to like go back a couple times because it's like, wait, was that Jack? Was that Roger? Or was that Maurice? Because those three have very similar hair,
yeah,
and it's sometimes hard to tell who it is when you have such little information to work with.
for sure. I think another thing that they have is right off the bat that we have a change, and this is getting back into story, is they
Hmm.
find the actual pilot of the plane, which they don't actually do that in the book. They find another
Hmm.
pilot, the parachute pilot, and I think that one is a lot more. It's not very prominent in the show compared to where it is in the book.
Yeah.
But I think it was an interesting change to not only find the pilot, but to push him just right off the cliff. Like
Hmm.
you have the character introductions right out the gate, which I think obviously a character introduction is incredibly important. That's your first impression of your characters. And you get to know a lot of these boys really well with them arguing over what do we do with this with the body. Piggy's like, we should bury
Hmm.
it. And Jack's like, nah, bro, just send it off the cliff. We'll do a Navy burial.
Yeah, and then Ralph offers a compromise,
Mm-hmm.
and you have Simon there, who, what, me not knowing the book, I didn't realize Simon was an integral character at this point.
Yeah.
Um, and Simon is too scared to speak up because
Mm-hmm.
at this point, him and Jack are like
They're
have this weird friendship relationship where
and we'll
Simon
get into
really,
that later too, because
yeah,
it
but
is weird.
it is weird, but it's a perfect show of like kind of their core thoughts, especially with like Jack and Piggy and Ralph, where they more verbalize it. Simon's is more of like a, as you continue watching, you go, oh yeah, he has been kind of scared to speak up and say what he thinks.
Yeah, and this foreshadows a big change that they make at the end of the book that I think we'll get to when we talk about it. But if you remind me, like this foreshadows something in the book that I was like, oh, they're foreshadowing this in the show, and it doesn't actually happen in the show. And I almost looking back on it
Okay.
think, oh, maybe this was them saying like, yes, we made a change, but like for you people that notice, here's like a little tidbit for you, especially me, because that thing that happens in the book, I think the way that we'll get to it later, but I think that the way it's
Hmm.
done in the show is good too. Like they're both good options. I wouldn't have been upset either way, but I feel like they recognize that there might be people like me that kind of wanted that thing and it didn't happen. So we'll get to that later. I think it's a
Okay.
good scene. It's a good scene.
Hmm.
Strong scene.
And yeah, so you had, I guess we're going off changes, so I can't speak to what happens next in changes terms.
Well, I don't
But
have too many notes actually for this first episode.
mhm.
I guess if you want to go through it chronologically, I can kind of talk about where it differs a little bit.
Yeah, I was just gonna say I thought that was interesting too because the next scene is like them. It leads them to an early moral discussion where uh you kind of see the different values they have.
Mm-hmm.
Where Ralph doesn't want to worry people. Piggy is the same in the sense where they found this dead body. They need to go tell people about it. They need to say like, "Hey, look, guys, we're probably alone because we found the pilot. He's dead." Ralph doesn't want to worry people. Piggy is thinking solely about the little ones,
Yeah.
and then Jack is like, "What are we talking about? We need to tell them." And I think that is one of the first things because again, not knowing a lot about the book going into it, I was like, you know what? I think that is a good like decision. You should probably get everyone on the same page. Like, look, guys, we need to work together extra hard because it's just us out here.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think they really capitalize on that because I don't think they actually end up telling, or we don't see them tell the kids what happened, that they
Yeah.
found a dead body. I think they just kind of go, yeah, we're alone.
And again, that's probably because it's not really in the book. But
Yeah.
I think, don't they have a line mentioning, I don't think there's any adults out here with us?
Yeah, they kind of just they say, I don't know what we should do. They call a meeting, and then I think Ralph goes, it's just us. We didn't find anyone. And then that leads into the, I think it leads into the conversation about who does what and the conch being passed around.
Yeah. I guess we can get straight into the meeting too. This is kind of a change from the book, from what I, not like a big one, but I think the reason the pilot scene works really well for me is because I feel like Jack's is his kind of cruelty is a lot more gradual in the book. He kind of just sucks right out the gate. And there's some redeeming moments. There's one specifically with Piggy later, but he's a lot more harsh and aggressive right at the get go. He's kind of chill, and
Mhm.
I think in the meeting he makes his claim, but he's not nearly as butthurt about it. Like he's like, "Oh, awesome, we can be the fire people. Like that's totally fine. That's cool."
Yeah.
But he's not like, "Oh, I should have been me. I was the leader." And I think
Hmm.
this is showing right out the bat that they're committing to really go deep into all of these characters. And I think one reason that it works is because they give all these characters backstories, which is not in the book. So you have a little bit of explanation. Whereas at the beginning of the book, I feel like that is more or less the backstory, so you can see what they evolve and become later.
Yeah. Yeah. Jack. Watching Jack's actor talk about Jack was actually very interesting. Um, but it is an interesting. He is a stereotypical kind of bully in the show.
Which is
Um,
interesting because I feel like he's gonna be typecast kind of as because he's playing Malfoy in the Harry Potter show, right?
I did not know that, but
You didn't? Okay.
the entire time I was watching it, I was thinking, man, this is a very Malfoy coded
That's
character where he is like,
he's playing him, so
yeah, he is just kind of like angry and making snide remarks, but
bitter.
yeah, he's just bitter. We realize that as we go on, and I think it's interesting because going off of what you said about the book, having them all start at a similar point where he's not like jaded, he's not bitter,
He definitely is
makes
a little bit, but it's not to this degree. At least I don't feel that
yeah.
way.
It would make more sense because I think kind of the point of these characters is to be like, look, you are put in a hard situation, you have these paths to go down, anyone could be dragged to like the impulse or the logic or the more religious or the more, all these different characters, but you're putting one of the people that's like, this is what a leader could look like in a
Hmm.
society that's falling apart, and he's starting at the point where he's kind of already having those thoughts, and like he's already kind of like very vicious and quick to be angry.
Yeah. And you're right. You keep mentioning the religious aspects. The Lord of the Flies book is an incredibly religious book. It's heavily
Hmm.
inspired by primarily the Genesis account and like the creation, the Garden of Eden, and then the Book of Revelation. Those are the big two. But you have a lot of like Jesus in the New Testament in a character that we'll get to a little bit later. But you keep a lot of that. Obviously, when you're reading a book, you're able to spot the references a lot more because a lot of it will be really
Yeah.
worded similarly to the Garden of Eden sections in Genesis. But as far as it goes here, you can kind of see like when Piggy and Ralph are swimming around. That is very symbolic of the Garden of Eden, and then the innocence of these kids, and
Yep.
then like obviously like Jack's not wearing a shirt or whatever. They're kind of skinny dipping, and that's like, oh, they started out naked in the Garden of Eden, and it wasn't much of an issue until it started becoming like face paint and they become
Hmm.
ashamed and whatnot. So you still get some of those parallels. It's just not nearly as on the nose or
Yeah.
specific as the book.
It is definitely not as specific. I'm trying to think anything else in episode one that stuck out to me. Uh, I thought it was a very good how they ended episode one.
I agree.
I don't know if you have I don't know if you have anything else before there.
No,
But
I actually don't.
ending in episode one with you had the fire, they're trying to save everyone, and you end it with, I think right before the end, Piggy says, I didn't make a registry. I don't know who we're missing yet, but I know that I haven't seen this one kid. And it's the kid who talked about seeing the beast and being scared.
Who I
The
like
kid
that I can't remember if in the book he has like a birthmark, but at least for the show they chose to make him pretty easily distinguishable.
It's pretty easily distinguishable, and they can't find him, and I actually I think you see him later in the show, but I was actually thinking this after I finished watching it. I was like, did we ever get resolve on if they, because they end it with Piggy looking out at the fire, trying to like call everyone with the conch because he is not physically fit enough, and
Mm-hmm.
even if he was, he has asthma. He can't run into the fire like everyone else. He is not able to go in and like save these people themselves or himself. So he's having to rely on what he can do to get people to call and get there and make sure everyone's safe. And we don't get a clean resolution on that. We just kind of see in his face. We get the opportunity to see the actor and see the emotion that he
Mm-hmm.
portrays to us as the audience. And I thought it was a very good show don't tell portion of the show.
I agree. It's when we get a lot of an interesting thing that we'll see time and time again is they'll do like face up or close ups on the face of all the characters, and there will just be like you said
Hmm.
that kind of choir music, which at times sounds blissful and kind of vibey, and at other times sounds incredibly ominous and hostile.
And very harrowing of what's to
Yeah.
come.
Another cool
Yeah.
thing about episode one that I think is they get the introduction of the beast, which is obviously it alludes to the serpent, and they talk about in the book. It's like, oh, it looked like a snake. It was slithering around in Garden of Eden, Satan, whatever. And
Hmm.
then the Book of Revelation talks about a beast, which they allude to a lot. But more as far as what it represents, I think it's the primal instinct and the fear and just evil of this
Hmm.
world. And so,
It's just
are
human
the
nature.
kids the beast? Eventually, maybe so, but just this idea of the beast right out the gate is an important part of the book, and it is kind of how they end episode one, is it not? More or
Uh,
less.
well,
There's the
yes,
fire and whatnot, but it's like right
hmm
before then, and even in the fire, they're like, "Oh, is it the beast that caused this?" Or right?
yeah. Well, because Piggy says it's the wood. He comments about how the wood's dead. But they talk about how so it's before the scene. The scene before is when they're doing the meeting and the kid
Mm-hmm.
mentions the beast, and so it's just on your mind because that's who they're looking for. And something I just thought of, I don't know if the book mentions this, but they say the beast came from the water.
Yeah.
That's
Mm-hmm.
actually pretty.
They mentioned
That
that.
is a pretty on the nose. Not to get too into it, but in Jewish tradition, and in the Genesis account, the water is created last, and the water is the furthest thing from God. So it's very interesting that the beast came from. It's just on the nose, and I love stuff like that. I think
The
it's
symbolism gets me giddy in this
yeah,
show. It's so cool. Well,
it's
in the
it's
book
very good.
specifically, but I feel like it is adapted to a point where it's not lost in the show, which I appreciate.
Hmm. Yeah, and that again, going back to the symbolism, they essentially burn down their Garden of Eden.
Yeah.
They separate themselves. They're locked to a beach and a part of the island, which now they are on a place they don't know, and they're scared, and they are out in the world. But
Well, another one of
uh
the places that is locked off, and this will get us into episode two, is there's as far as the book goes, and I can't remember. I think I was making soup during the beginning of episode two, but one of my favorite parts of the book is there's actually a firefight, like a dog fight above the island,
oh,
and one of the pilots gets ejected from the dogfight, and he comes down with a parachute and lands on the specific portion of the trail that leads up to an upper part of the island. And that is what they think the beast is for a vast majority. I think the twins are the one that
mhm.
discover it. But the way it's described in the
Yeah.
book, you see the parachute flapping around, and I think that is how episode two starts. But that's almost like the cherubim and the flaming sword that blocks off a
Yeah.
specific part of the island as well.
They don't show a dogfight from what I remember. What they do show is I think they imply that the parachute person is literally either from their ship or from their plane, or just a guy that got stranded there before or stuck there, because they show it. The parachute catches the wind and brings him to a certain spot, on the island, and then it catches the wind again later in episode 3 and
and
is gone.
and this part actually happens after they kill the pig in the books. Like this is quite a bit later, and that's why the pacing they definitely change it, and I think it's a little interesting because we can get to the end of season 2, but when they kill the pig, that's actually chapter 4 of the book,
Hmm.
and I think there's 12 chapters. So that's halfway through the show, but a quarter through the book. And the parachute thing actually happens after. I'm trying to see if I can get some quotes from these because the imagery that he does on this is quite fascinating. I think it's so cool.
Hmm. Something that I did, well, you find that something that I really liked from episode 2 is I think it's episode 2. It's either near the end of episode 1 or the beginning of episode 2. You see the boy. There's two kids, and it's they're playing by the water, and they're grabbing like lizards that are just crawling around, and they're like, oh look, we found like a pond skimmer, or we found a lizard. And Maurice is off camera. No, it's Roger. It's Roger's off camera in the cave throwing rocks at them to
Bro,
scare them.
he's a menace.
And me not knowing anything about the book, I thought that was Jack for a second. I was like, okay, this guy's really evil. But having finished the show, that is such a good setup for Roger, because Roger doesn't have a lot of screen time. He's there, you can see him, but like where he's present and like talking, there's not a lot of Roger. And you set him up really early to show that he is like kind of with it. Like Jack is seen as the leader of the choir boys, but Jack is not the one pulling the strings a lot of the times. It's Maurice and Roger telling Jack what to do, and Jack wants validation. And so I thought that was a really good thing. And also going off the choir boys really quickly, something that I do kind of want to touch on for later. Um, in episode 1, when we are introduced to the choir boys, we talk about Simon fainting, which is a very big character trope in the book, from my understanding.
Yeah.
He faints a lot, and that leads him to receiving visions.
Hmm.
And that is something that we kind of talk about in episode 1, and then it is never brought up again.
No, Simon is, I think, e- pretty easily my biggest issue with the show. As far as characters go, I
Hmm.
don't really. I mean, he's not awful, but I'm not the biggest fan of how they do him.
Yeah.
But he's still like
And
he's got some good stuff.
well,
We'll get to
I'll
that
talk
in
about it more.
3.
Yeah, in episode 3. But going back to episode 2,
This is
I
Jack's
guess yeah,
episode.
yeah. This is the Jack episode where we kind of see how he goes about how he would go about leading, where he is very like, we need food, and my group is not going to help out in any other way other than getting food.
Well, it's pretty impulsive, right? Like the first thing that comes to his
Yeah.
mind is food. Okay, we're gonna do that now.
Yep. And to the point where it leads them to being stuck on the island for,
Yeah,
because this is,
huge.
I don't know how it is in the book, but this is shown in the show. It's implied to me that this is very early on. They're only there for like maybe a day or two, and they miss the boat because all the hunters took on too much responsibility, and they left the fire to go out.
Yeah, and I think it's cool because they they give everyone backstories, and I think Jack's backstory really works, where he's always talking about. And I guess this would be a change because he's always talking about his dad in the Navy and implying that he's like some crazy spy man.
Yep.
And it's really sad because I obviously as kids, that's one thing that's so good about the book that I think the show captures is it really captures kids. All the things that they say and do, you've seen it at one point or another in elementary school. And there's always those
Hmm.
people that are like, "Oh, my dad does this crazy thing," but I can't say what it is because I
Hmm.
actually am lying.
And it's really it's never he initiates it, as I think is interesting, because the going to the dad, when we learn his dad is a spy, it's initiated by Ralph saying, "Hey, don't worry. My dad's
Mm-hmm.
in the Navy in the Navy. We will be found. They will look for us." And they're talking about like how every island's been mapped. And then Simon says, "Oh, my dad's in the RAF. He's in the Royal Air Force," which leads Jack to one up everyone and say, "Well, my dad's actually
I can't
really
tell
important to the
you.
country, but I can't tell you." And he's not initiating that. It is a I want to feel important, I want to feel included
He's incredibly
impulse decision.
reactionary.
Hmm.
Yeah, but there's still really good moments with him. Is this the one with Piggy? Where
Uh,
they have like a little bonding moment where they're walking in the woods together, and I feel like he respects Piggy for just a little bit.
what scene are you talking about? Because there's the one with Simon where they sing together.
I feel
Um,
like it's near there, right?
I'm trying to think of what he does. Because up until this point, in episode one, he stole Piggy's glasses.
Because I
He's
think
called Piggy
The Simon
Piggy
one,
and Fatty.
yeah. I don't know. Maybe because you have the knife, and that's in episode one, and that's a good setup
Oh,
too for him not like being
well, he
able
can't take
to.
responsibility.
Well, he also just he doesn't have it in him the way that he's like innocent, naked in a sense, the Garden of Eden way, and it's until he's like covered that he's able to like
Well,
do stuff.
there's that scene where they Piggy never mentions it to anyone, which I guess shows like his kind of
Yeah,
values.
that's the one.
But Piggy helps Jack corner the pig in the like tree branches, and Jack can't kill it. The pig runs away, and he immediately turns to Piggy and does the like very childish thing where it's like, "I'm not to blame. You did that. Why didn't you grab it?" And then he's like, "Well, Piggy's like obviously confused, and it results with Piggy
Because it's
being like, 'Oh,
illogical, and Piggy is
yeah,
logical.
Piggy, you can see, honestly, this is one I realized these kid actors are amazing. You can actually see on the actor for Piggy where he's like, "Oh, you are a person who can't take responsibility and you're scared and you're trying to hide it by being overconfident." And Jack says, "You will not." Piggy says, "Don't worry, I won't tell anyone." And Jack says, "Well, yeah, you won't because it was your fault." And Piggy is the bigger man here to
Mm-hmm.
like, move on from that, but he never mentions it because later on, when Ralph finds out that uh, Jack is not who he seems, it's not
Yeah.
because of Piggy, it's because of Simon.
And he's like, take that back. And he does that a lot where he's like, his ego is so important. And things that people say to
Hmm.
him.
Yeah, and I think that's the scene you must be talking about. I don't know if there's
I think that's
another
it.
one.
It's been a while. And I think I might be mixing it with pieces of the Simon one because they do look very similar. Um,
Yeah,
yeah.
especially before they all
But I
start
do
donning
feel
face
like
paint.
there are I can't remember exactly what I do feel like there's at least a few moments in two though where you get to see a little bit of the humanity of Jack, which I appreciate.
Um, oh, actually, I do remember one scene that stuck out to me. Uh, Jack is the one. They're having a meeting, and it's when they're talking about the monster coming from the sea. They talk
Mm-hmm.
about the beast again, and this is when they find out it came from the sea. Uh, one of the kids, I think it's Percival, he's scared to talk about it, and all the other kids are kind of just laughing. They're like, "Oh, he has the conch, let him talk," but they're not listening, and you can see this happen in the background. Ralph and Piggy and Simon start arguing with the rest of the choir boys. Jack gets up and leans down to Percival. Percival whispers it to him, and Jack privately goes to Ralph and says, "Hey, he's said he's seen the beast, and he says it comes from the sea."
Mm-hmm.
And to me, that was like okay, this guy, he he isn't entirely bad. He will protect those that need it, but he is not able to openly show it like Piggy is, where Piggy is very openly afraid, or not afraid, but like worried about the young kids.
Yeah, that's his big thing. He's always like, man, where are they gonna go to the bathroom? Like, we need to make sure the outhouse area is all good, which is
Hmm.
which is fun. And obviously, it does lead to him kind of falling even further into depravity when they put on the crazy war paint and they do their war chants and they take out the pig. Which, have you heard about this section in the book? This is one I
No,
have to find because it is probably one of the more controversial bits in the book.
because uh, also going into the another part that I think shows Jack's not only protection for his own ego, but
Pull up a
for
PDF.
Simon, for others, is they find all the while they're out hunting, they find all the luggage and they find Simon's diary. And Jack obviously doesn't want them to read it because they'll find out that Jack doesn't go home for Christmas and he hangs out with Simon, who is seen as kind of like the outcast. But he also doesn't, it's not like he reads it and makes fun of Simon for it. He does later, but like he protects Simon from being embarrassed by the other boys needlessly.
Yeah. Um. I think I almost wanna. I don't know if I want to read the full page, but the best way I can describe it. Yeah, here it is. So they run up to the pig. So they say the sow fell, and the hunters hurled themselves at her. This dreadful eruption from an unknown world made her frantic. She squealed and bucked in the air and was full of sweat and noise and blood and terror. Roger ran around in the heat, prodded her with the spear. Whenever pig flesh appeared, Jack was on top of the sow, stabbing downward with the knife. Roger found a lodgment for his point, began to push till he was leaning with his whole weight. Uh, the immediacy of the kill subsided. The boys drew back, and Jack stood, looking around. Let's see. And then he screams, "Right up her ass!" Like, and the way that it's written is really
It's
rapey. Like it.
yes, I got that as soon as you were starting, because it's obviously it is a female pig in the
Yeah,
show too. It has babies, and that is an important thing that I don't know if they do in the book, but they do it in the show. Right after they kill the pig, I think it's Maurice says to Jack, "Will her babies die now?" And Jack's kind of like,
he doesn't want to think about it.
"Yeah,
Obviously,
yeah." But it is one of those things where maybe that is an allegory that you probably shouldn't include. It does
it's
sound
really
very
weird. Like even
weird.
in the context of the book, I feel like it's a little out of place. But
Uh, and yeah, I feel like it's weirder too because it's like obviously it's to he's drawing the connection that them getting a taste of blood of like finally killing something is their loss of innocence, which I think the show did perfect.
mm,
And the show doesn't make the killing like this weird rape thing. Um, but I think it's a little you don't need to draw the connection where it's like, oh, it's a loss of innocence. They're raping the pig.
they're raping the pig. No, don't do that. Yeah, it's a little odd. But this is another one of those moments. It's one of three. It's almost like the Joker movie where there's not a lot of kills in that, but the kills are brutal. And
Hmm.
this is probably the goriest scene. I think this is what gave it the rating that it got because it's pretty
Well,
tame for a TVMA for the most part.
yes.
This one, it is
When
spewing blood everywhere when he slits her throat. And that's the chant that they
yeah,
do, like, kill the beast, slit its throat, like, suckle
just
its
drain its
blood.
blood.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that because they are having to like brutally murder it because they have just sticks that have
Yeah.
been crudely sharpened, so they're like whacking it over the head, and it's kind of like okay, this is what I would expect, but then Jack gets in there and slits the throat, and it's like iron lung like levels
Yeah.
of like he is just red. He's just red head to toe, and it's like wow, but
It's
it is that a
brutal.
loss of innocence.
It's nice. It looks good. Because it's obviously pretty CG. I think a lot of it is.
Hmm.
Is it partially practical too, though? I feel like that's something they would do.
Uh,
But you got to be really
yeah,
careful with kids.
they had
I felt
the
like at
the
least some
pig
of the
body.
sprays on the camera lens were definitely
Oh, the
CG.
the the sprays on the camera ones were CG. they had a couple real pig like practical carcasses, but yeah, the entire them fighting it is CG. And they talked about that in the making of it, where they're like,
Mm,
when we're approaching these violent scenes, we are being very careful on making sure that the kids like don't
yeah,
think that this is like cool or awesome or anything like that. And they talk about
that's
it in
cool.
context. They talk about it in context of episode 3, where they are not killing a pig, but they are, killing another human being.
Yeah,
But that scene was, yeah, because they do have the moment where Jack and Maurice have the slight conversation about, oh, the baby pigs are gonna die now, but then they immediately go back to they've got the one kid in the front hoisting the head like this, and like the rest of them are walking out there with the pig, and they're chanting the kill the beast, drain its blood, slit its
yeah.
throat, or whatever. So it's done very well, I
And you're
think.
adding all these roles onto Jack too, because at first he's like, "You're the choir guy." Now I'm also
Hmm.
the hunter guy, and he's like sneakily. And I don't know if it's necessarily his intention to sneakily do this, or if it's just instinct. It could be intentional or unintentional, but either way, he's like, "Oh, now I'm gaining a little bit more power by being the light or the fire watcher," which obviously he
Hmm.
ruins. But now he's like, also we're gonna be in charge of just food in general, like hunting, protection. He's adding more and more roles, and you're seeing that like his authority and kind of his power over the group is getting bigger and bigger as time goes on.
He
This
just
episode he grows a lot.
Yeah, he wants prestige.
His
He
influence.
wants he wants to be someone because he is more than anyone else a nobody in the sense, because he like, obviously he has uh a family. They talk about like, but he doesn't know, like he doesn't see them, whatever that is.
Hmm.
So like he almost, you could argue, has no like family name, like
Yeah.
he's making a name for himself. So uh what else happens in, is it, I can't remember. Do they break off in episode 2, or no?
I think
Yeah, they
it's
kind of do. They start it where they kind of be
yeah.
like, "Hey, we're gonna go over here, and you guys can stay here," because they get mad about getting called out for messing up the fire watch.
Hmm.
But they it's not until like episode 3 where they fully go, "Hey, we're the cool side of the island. We're gonna go party."
Is this the one too where it might be three where Ralph and Jack go across the very narrow like rock to the other area?
That is Simon's
That's
episode.
Simon's
Yeah,
okay.
that's episode
Get to that
3.
one. I think we've covered a lot of Jack. I was really impressed by how they handled Jack.
Mm-hmm.
I was
Yeah.
impressed by the acting. I think they add a lot of depth to him, and I think the
Mm-hmm.
pig scene, because again you're changing the orders a little bit. That's a good episode ending. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's what you want to finish off on.
And I also think getting because I've, obviously not every book cover is the same, but one of the big imageries of Lord of the Flies is that pig head, because
That we'll
they
get
call it
into
the
a
Lord.
lot later.
Yeah, but I think it's also very good that they brought in an symbol that you may recognize even if you haven't read the book or you don't remember a lot from the book in episode 2. Now, do they use it a ton? Not really.
No.
Which I think is another kind of failure that kind of ties in with Simon. But going into Simon's episode,
This is right off. There's a lot of good things, and I think my favorite bits about this episode are how it's shot, but this is probably the one I have the biggest issue with.
this is the one when they start heavily, because up until this point it's still kind of been like very green and very cheery.
Hmm.
I think they kind of start it after they kill the pig, but this is when it becomes super high contrast, and it is red.
Gorgeous red, but
It looks amazing,
red and
but it is
gray.
red. Yes. There was a couple times during this episode where I was like, I had to check if my because I was watching it on my iPad. I had to check if my iPad was at full brightness because I was like, I cannot see what is going on at all.
This is
But
also, I feel like they lean a lot into the religious aspects of it by showing the choir bits right out the gate, but
yeah,
they also really heavily imply that Simon is queer. I'd say in this episode. Did you get that? I feel like it was
I
pretty.
okay.
I feel like it was pretty on the nose.
I was trying not to have a doomer media moment, but yes, I did sometimes think that with between the relationship between Jack and Simon, it was actually to the point where, so okay, not to jump too far ahead, but during this episode, um, I felt like I was missing something with Simon's character between this episode and episode four. And I looked it up during episode four. I was like, what is Simon's like character? And one of the first things that hit on Google was, is Simon queer? And I don't know if this could be a mistranslation or like a misunderstanding from the writer. There's apparently in the book they describe Simon as queer, but obviously using the older
Yeah,
um, translation of he's queer, he's weird. And that's another problem I have. Simon has not had a lot of screen time up to this point. We've had minor interactions, seeing he's scared to confront Jack, seeing he's a friend to Piggy and he's relating to Piggy, and seeing that he can also be like a voice of reason to kind of help everyone. And like when Piggy fails to talk to Ralph, Simon can kind of jump in. But then you just get to this point in this episode where Piggy and Ralph go, "You're batty, Simon. You're really batty." And I felt like it was kind of unwarranted, and you didn't really show me as the audience a way where I could be like, oh, that is like a thing that they could conclude.
yeah. I don't know. Like a big portion of this episode is him like obtaining his journal, too,
Hmm.
which takes up a lot of time. I feel like that was the first kind of because it's paced. It's a slow burn. The book's a slow burn. The show's a slow burn. But this was some of the first moments where I was like, I don't. This is starting to feel a little more like filler than development.
Yeah. Hmm. And he obtains the journal, and they kind of make it like this triumphant, like he overcame things in the journal. But then they kind of don't really do anything with the remaining like 20 minutes of the episode after that, because he burns the journal, but then he's like trying to be more confident and he's immediately shut down by being called Batty.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to look up why they're calling him Batty, and it's because I found out he faint so it's implied in the book, and again they mention it in episode 1, Simon faints, and it's implied that Simon has epilepsy and probably some other disorder which leads to him fainting, and when he faints he has religious visions, and
Yeah.
his whole character is based on religion and like how a
More
religious leader.
specifically, he's incredibly based on just Jesus. Like a
Yeah.
lot of what's used in the book for him, like going out into the wilderness for long periods of time, or having these visions, or before he's killed. A lot of it is like the Gethsemane walk, or like knowing
Hmm.
what is about to happen as he's carrying like the burden and of like the wickedness around him with him.
He has the burden of knowledge, knowing that like the beast is not real, which is another thing
Mm-hmm.
they totally butcher in my opinion. They see the beast and they show that Simon is brave enough to like not
Yeah.
immediately run away, and then they never touch on the fact that the beast is not a beast and it is in fact just a dead guy attached to a parachute.
Yeah.
And I think they really messed up. There's another scene in this going along the like because they're talking about how Jack's group is partying, and they say a line to Simon that is, "Why shouldn't we like eat, drink, and be merry?" Which is like obviously a thing that is talked about in the Bible with Sodom and Gomorrah, where people are like, "Why shouldn't we be allowed to sin?" And so it is a very interesting thing.
Well, there's bits too. I'm trying to remember what chapter this is in, but he goes to all the little ones, and then he says he picks out the choicest of fruit, which again is Garden of Eden, and he gives it to all the kids. Like it's very like Simon's character is very very religious, and I on
He's
top of that, I would say one of it's a recurring instance in the book where he goes to the pig head. It's almost like I feel like a
yes.
lot of that is the encounters with Satan or whatever, but also just it was those were honestly possibly my favorite parts of the book cuz he's just horrified and he's going up to confront kind of this creature, and I think that's I honestly can't remember if he has a journal in the book, but I feel like it's if there I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't really have one in the book, because I feel like he's sharing and expositing those thoughts, and a lot of the quotes from the show are from or like from his journal are from the book of him talking to the beast, which has the famous line like that's as he looked at the Lord of the Flies, which is the beast head, and I was
Uh-huh.
waiting for them to maybe add that
And
because I really like that
I don't
line.
think they ever
They don't,
say Lord of the Flies. They never say Lord of the Flies.
and he only
And
goes to the
it's
pighead once.
and it is a very like I thought I was going crazy. I thought I honestly missed something because Simon goes to the pig head and he just starts going like this and he's like freaking out. And they do when he's walking to the pig head, I don't know if you noticed, you hear uh he's counting the lightning to see like he sees lightning and he
Mm.
counts. And it's because again, they don't touch on it. He apparently has epilepsy. Is he's like he's trying to not faint from flashing lights, and they just do not touch on any of this, and it does make Simon just kind of feel like a crazy character and not someone based on like
Literally
having a religious
Jesus.
foundation. Yeah.
Yeah, he like he'll walk around, and I remember fasting is a big kind of deal with the language that he uses in the book with Simon leaving, or like as he walks the path, he realizes that he is alone, or things like that. But I don't know. I
Mhm.
feel like if they really tried to, because I mean, if you think about it, you think about the book and how that figure is. Adapting that would be really hard because a lot of the descriptions truly are from the narrator, the third person omniscient. So it's difficult to kind of capture all those elements. And I still think they get a lot of things right. Like it's not a bad episode. It's just the one that I
It isn't.
feel a little more disappointed with.
I just felt kind of disappointed in Simon. Like I thought Simon's character was really strong until his episode, and I feel like they didn't capitalize on it as much as they should have. And I think kind of it's kind of in the language and the dialogue of how he's talked about in his almost in his final moments where people are calling him baddie. You go watch this exchange between him and the Lord of the Flies, which just makes him look insane, and you're
But
like, okay, I
it
guess
looks visually awesome though. I will say
it looks
that.
visually awesome, but as a character, it's like, okay, so maybe he is insane, or he's talking to a pighead and he's like twitching and stuff, and then it ends with him being killed,
In
and
a way that I
getting this
don't really
speed.
believe, because in the book I
Hmm.
do remember it being a lot more hectic and crazy, and they think he's the parachute guy because it's from the same
Yeah,
path and the same direction as that, and I think this is right after he finds out in the book that oh yeah it's it's just a dude, and I think he's coming back
hmm
to tell them, and
well,
they just kill him. But here
and
it's
they do
like
that in
there's
this one.
no way they wouldn't see him the way that it's
Yeah,
shot and like know that they're killing Simon.
well, that's the thing because he goes, I got to tell them. We don't know what he has to tell them in the show because it's he just had that psychedelic freak out, and then he goes, I have to go tell them, and then he runs and he gets stabbed and killed, and you don't see that until he's on the shore with the like
He also
spear
gets
wounds in his side.
trampled over like multiple times. I think he gets trampled over, pretty much knocked unconscious, and then killed, and then still trampled. Like this one is insanely brutal in the book,
Hmm.
and it just isn't like they don't even really they don't show anything. It just shows the kid stabbing a
Like,
bush. And I was really
and
hoping, because you got that rating, you have the TVMA. I was hoping they'd commit a little more.
like they kind of just use that scene to show like Jack realizing like as like they use it more as like a Jack moment where he goes, oh, we just killed a person. That's not good. Where the rest of the kids don't really notice that. They just kind of stop because Jack stopped, where Jack like backs away disgusted with himself. Um, but then Jack later in episode 4, Ralph says, you killed Simon." Like he confronts him on that, and Jack's response is he shouldn't have been crawling in the bushes like that. He was being batty.
I think
And to
that
me,
sounds like a direct line from the book,
and that was to me,
which could
I
still
was
be a
like, what?
problem.
It could be a problem, but in the book you could describe it as like the grass is like way too tall,
Oh
or
yeah, yeah,
like
yeah.
they're
Just
in the
these
darkness, they
bushes
can't
looked
see.
like it looked like first and foremost they went out of their way to go over to this little bush, which if they're hunting things
Hmm.
and they want to, that makes sense. But like the beast that they see and understand, I don't think would fit in that tiny little bush. And then
And
they would have seen him. They had to
and
have.
Jack would have had to have been crawling. Those bushes were not tall enough.
No.
Like, because it's implied to us that he's running, but then it's like, oh, he was crawling apparently. It does feel a little disconnected. One thing I will give
I
that
think
scene
maybe he
though
faints or
is,
trips. I can't remember exactly how it goes down, but it's really it seems pretty contrived to me.
yeah. One thing I will give that scene though, sound design wise,
Awesome.
mixing his screams with a pig squeal, I think
Yeah.
was very good. But again, it makes me want something more where it's like you could have built up this monster, this beast. You could have made it like sound more terrifying, and I think you just kind of missed the opportunity there. And again, the pig head is very symbolic of things. Like
Mhm.
obviously it's human nature. It's pigs in obviously the Bible and to Jewish tradition are like the most unclean animal. It's the only thing they can eat on this island, and it's a representation of Satan. Uh, in a lot of places in the Bible, and they just kind
Or
of
like
totally
the when
miss
he
that.
casts all the demons into pigs and stuff.
Yeah, they just kind of missed that in the show, and I don't know if they were scared to touch the religious topic and to make the show too religious, but if they were, I think they failed and undersold it and made it really ruined an integral
I feel like they
character in
tried to
certain
justify it
aspects.
because they have the whole scene in the church, like the background one. And that's the first time
Where
where I feel like
he's
they really go, and he's looking at Jesus. But like after the
yeah.
episode, I was like wondering if he was just a little like thinking about, man, do you accept me because I'm gay? Like that's kind of the thoughts that I was having when I watched it. I was like,
Oh yeah.
huh.
We can oh, we kind of skipped over that. Going back to the are they queer question. Uh if the journal's not in the book, that is a very major change.
I don't
Um,
remember. It really could be. Let me see.
Even
I'll
if
just do a quick
like
search.
sometimes with old writing, they used to just talk different. It was weird when Jack is reading, or no, not Jack. Simon's reading his journal that he got back from Jack, and he's talking about the time that they spent together over Christmas, which could be a very normal thing. I could write in my journal like, "Hey, I spent time with my friend over Christmas. This is what we did." But it is very weird to me what they had Simon saying in this, where it's like, oh, he was sick and I slept with him and I stayed by his side and I kept my curtain drawn
I just
and
did
he
a
called me
search.
mom.
Yeah. I did a search for journal and notebook in the book, and none of them come up, so I don't think
Try diary, because they
diary.
call it a diary. They call it a diary in the show, so um, maybe
Nope.
interesting. um, yeah, I thought that part was really weird when Simon's reading his journal and he's like, "Yeah, I stayed by his side. I slept in bed with Jack, and he called me mom, and we laughed about it." And it's like you could play this off as like a childlike innocence, and that's kind of where I'm hung up. Is it queer
It could be
or
fine.
is it
The
like
the
a
thing is like I changes like that need to make sense. And I don't know why it's
hmm
there. Like I don't know what they're trying to say with it really. Like
yeah.
what
It
was
may
the message? Cuz like if they make a
because if
change like that, I think it could work. I just don't understand why in this case.
hmm
Like what
you also
was
have the
they trying to
scene
say?
where Jack and Simon are looking at each other during the choir the entire time. They keep looking at each other. So there is a lot of weird. I don't know if weird's the right word. It's a lot of like I think it could lead to big conclusions that we as the audience can't make because we were not given enough information.
Well, like even if he is, I feel like you'd want to be like, okay, if he's gay, I feel like people would make fun of him for it, but they don't even that
No.
I don't really get it. And also like this is a Jesus figure. Like that's a pretty big change to make to someone like that. I'd want to know why. I'd just be curious to ask him for the reasoning because I don't feel like it worked particularly
Yeah,
well.
I personally think they were going for a more childlike innocence aspect of it, where it's like they are just like really good friends, and Jack is kind of like a jerk to him. But I can't fault anyone for getting a different reading from that.
Yeah.
And honestly, if you did get a different reading from it, it can change how you view Jack, because now you can view Jack as a deeply homophobic character.
I wouldn't say that because I don't think Jack would really understand that because they're kids.
Possibly,
I really
possibly, but
don't.
like, I mean, yeah, it could, but he is also like trying to hide it at the very least.
Yeah. But
Hide the
there's not enough
relationship they
time to
have.
I guess not necessarily like, well, like why is it there, but they don't have enough time to develop that. It's kind
Yeah,
of out of if it's a change, it's not really in line with the what we've seen in episodes 1 and 2. And if that was a change they were
yeah,
going to make and commit to, I'd want more and I'd want it to make more of an impact than it did cuz it just feels kind of like the journal itself feels a little bit like padding to an episode that they just didn't have enough of. They could have just
yeah.
had him go back to the pig head more. Can I read
Hmm.
that quote? That's one of my favorites. I actually wrote it down.
Yeah, go for it.
This is what he says. This is the pile of guts was a black blob of flies that buzzed like a saw. After a while, these flies found Simon. Gorged, they alighted by his runnels of sweat and drank. They tickled under his nostrils and played leapfrog on his thighs. They were black and iridescent green and without number, and in front of Simon, the Lord of the Flies hung on his stick and grinned. And I was like, it's so good. I love the book so much. I just think it's a really cool way to say things. That and the first time I read it, I was confused. Like I didn't really know.
Hmm.
Like it's so vivid, like the imagery. But man, it's awesome. And I wasn't able
Yeah,
to find the parachute one, but I remember the way that they describe him too. Is like, whoa, what is this creature? It really could be a scary thing, but it's just parachute guy. But it's so cool. It's so
and
cool.
I think they visually did that justice. The parachute did look pretty good with it when it like flapped open and like you saw it. Also, another
Yeah.
thing I think to touch on real quick is when Simon does finally go see the Lord of the Lord of the Flies.
Hmm.
Um, you they pan the camera up and the pilot that they push down is hanging above the Lord of the Flies. Did you notice that?
I didn't. That's pretty cool.
Which is weird because another thing that they kind of like kept they didn't keep doing it, but there's a scene in that episode where Simon is holding the pin that was on the pilot's chest that he like snagged before they pushed him off the cliff. And it's just kind of like this weird thing where they're like, uh, "What do you mean by this? Why is the pilot now here, hanging above the Lord of the Flies? Why did the kids who killed the
I just
pig
think
come in?"
it's symbolic because it like shows the evil and the depravity, and it's like this is where it started and this is where it is as of now,
Yeah, I guess that's true.
and this is like I don't know. I think that's cool actually. I think it's a cool detail. I don't have much problem with that.
Yeah, I mean, I was just confused by it, honestly.
The only thing I'd
There's
be
a lot of
confused about
stuff.
is like maybe location. Like
Yeah,
how did it get there? Like was the cliff actually like really close? And if it was there, then how did they put the pig head there without seeing it?
yeah,
Logistically, it
that
might
was
be an
my
issue,
thing.
but I don't know. Maybe I think it like thematically works great.
Yeah, and I don't have anything else for Simon's episode, which bring us to
I was
Ralph.
gonna say I've forgotten a lot about. I feel like the more we go, the more I'm like, man, I probably should have rewatched it again before going into it. But this might be good because it's just like what. Because when you talk about a show, especially after time, you're talking about the things that really stuck with you, and
Hmm.
so that might be better. I don't know.
Yeah. What stuck? Some Just to touch on this real quick. Did you notice that while they were shooting episodes, they would randomly do like I couldn't tell if they were like digital zoom ins, but they had like random like they would have it on a person and then they would like zoom in almost like reality TV.
Yeah, there's some. Like I said, some of the stuff is really cool and adds to it, but I feel like a lot was also somewhat distracting, especially when they were going all in with the fisheye and stuff like that. At the beginning, you're like,
Hmm.
this makes sense. This is disoriented. Piggy's disoriented. He's out of breath. He's claustrophobic. He's in a new place. But then they would just do it
Hmm.
other times too, where they're just like walking through the forest or the jungle. And
Yeah.
I'm like, I mean, it's cool that you can do that, and most of the time, the vast majority of the time, it's very, very like thematic, and I think it works really well with going with what's going on. But there's a few where I was like, it's this is a little too artsy. Like we're stepping into Zack Snyder land a bit.
Hmm. Especially when you have a lot of things where it's like from episode 3 on, it's red. Everything's red. There's red everywhere.
Mm.
And when you start layering all these different things, it does sometimes be like, okay, that's a little weird. And for me, that one of those was every time I saw it zoom in, I was like, okay, now I just feel like I'm watching a reality TV show. I don't feel
That's
like
a
I'm on
funny
the island
thought.
with the boys.
The
But
boys, me and the boys on the island. Yeah.
but Ralph's episode,
This
let's
one
see, how
was
does it?
very interesting to me, and it makes sense. But when it started off, I was like, they're gonna make Ralph's the last episode, like not the first one. But obviously,
Yeah.
duh, this is definitely Ralph's episode, especially in the book.
Hmm.
I think that was just me being
Like
stupid at first. I don't know.
you could argue it could have been Piggy's because this is kind of like his last stand, but
Big changes
it
with
it
Piggy in this one. Big
it
changes.
wouldn't work. But it wouldn't work because of obviously what happens later.
Right out the gate,
Um,
what I like about this one are the twins. Like you said at the beginning of the
oh,
episode, minor characters go a long way because all the actors are really good, and the twins have stuck around, and I loved all the interactions with them. I thought they were really cool right out the gate.
for for me, not only the twins, Maurice and Roger on Jack's side, it's almost like
Roger is a menace. He's
he is
horrifying.
he is really crazy and
He's
props
more
to all
evil
these
than
kid
Jack. Like
actors.
he's just flat
Oh
out
yeah,
evil.
no. Is that a change? Because that was something I was
No,
wondering. Where it's like,
no, he's
okay,
he's just
because
evil.
like I can see the Jack being like manipulated by Roger, and I think that's a great thing, and even Maurice to an extent. But yeah, it is like Roger is the craziest one, but I think it's interesting, which I'll touch on later when we get to the end of the episode. The what
Oh, I
happens at
can't
the
wait. I
end.
can't wait to
Um,
talk about that.
so it opens with I think yeah, Piggy and Ralph are just kind of at camp with the twins, and I they kind of imply that literally everyone else has gone to Jack's camp.
And that's a
Like,
thing that is, I think, as far as the book goes, I feel like there's a lot more kids. Like, there's the number of kids in the show is more than the book. And
mhm.
it's hard for me to keep track of all of them, but I feel like that is definitely what they're implying. Because he take the last of like the little ones.
Well, because in episode 3, the reason that they all die is because they go to Jack's party because they just killed another pig and they have the
Mm-hmm.
meat. Um, and so they go to the party, and after Simon's killed, the twins and they don't we don't see this, but it's implied on the start of episode 4 that the only people that left are the twins, Piggy, and Ralph. And so the rest of the kids are just having fun, dancing and being crazy and like being wild with Jack. well, like the twins are trying to keep the fire going, and Piggy's worried about all the little ones, all
Well,
the
that's the crazy thing, right? Morality slash religion slash like natural innocence has just died, so to speak. That is the
yeah.
thing to go. And what's on the line right now is logic and innocence. Like, or not innocence, but like logic and practicality. Like they're just forgetting about the kids at this point. It's
Hmm.
going back to them forgetting about the campfire. They're forgetting a lot more things, and like you can see that logic is gonna be kind of the next thing to go after just like good nature and goodwill, which is so
Hmm.
cool.
Yeah. It and then they quickly, I think, oh yeah, they quickly come into the big problem of this episode where Ralph Piggy wakes Ralph up saying he heard something, and then his glasses get stolen because they stole fire. The only
Mm-hmm.
way they've been able to start a fire on the island is the glasses, and not only do they, obviously Jack's group wants them because they want to make fires to cook things. Piggy, Ralph, and the twins want it because they are trying to keep the signal fire going so that
Mm-hmm.
they can escape the island. And that is the major conflict of this episode, is getting the glasses back, which is very interesting because, fire is like the most primitive technology, and there's a lot of ways to make fire, but it's this thing blinds logic. This is like the first time we see Piggy make an irrational decision.
Mm-hmm.
It's to get his glasses back.
And you'd almost wonder, because there is a minor change that we missed in episode 2, is what after they kill the pig, they find the suitcases and stuff.
Oh
And I
yeah.
think that's kind of cool because it like adds more to their tribalistic outfits and whatnot. But it's hard for me to think that there's nothing in those suitcases or those bags that wouldn't have helped make a fire. You know?
Yeah, I mean, it's the 1950s. How many people were smoking? How could you not have found like
Yeah,
a lighter?
a lighter or even just another pair of glasses, another form of glass,
Hmm.
anything.
Yeah, that isn't. I did like the outfits that the kids
Yeah,
had, especially
added to
because
the costume design.
most of them were traditionally. They find a lot of suitcases, but a lot of the things you see them wearing are traditionally female clothes,
Yeah,
obviously. And it's very funny
the
because
scarves and
it's very
stuff.
interesting to me because obviously young boys are usually like, no, I'm not wearing girl clothes. But in this scenario where they are like wanting any form of like differentiation and like status, they are donning like fur vests, and like there's the one kid that wears like the dress like wireframe thing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It
And
looks
so
awesome.
I thought it was very cool. And then also, oh, another thing with production design, all the masks, like the one Jack has that's like some like necklace thing that he pulls over his face. There's the one kid with the giant piece of wood that has like the two eye holes, and
Oh,
then there's another kid with
that was
like
straight up horror movie stuff. I love
there's
that.
yeah, there's a kid with like a burlap sack on, and it's like I loved that. And then also the war paint, like they just looked
So
amazing.
cool. So cool.
But yeah, this is, I think, Piggy's first mistake is he irrationally, once he's blinded, obviously the rationality gets blinded, and they give Jack one last chance, and they go and try to get the glasses back in trading the conch, which the conch represents like democracy and like
Order. Yeah.
order and having a system, and they are trying to trade it to the person that kind of represents like impulse and like chaos almost.
Yeah, and you realize that like power doesn't need order to function. Like
Hmm.
the most powerful person on this island right now has killed any sense of order. He just doesn't have it, and it's been running successfully for him. and who knows where it would have gone the longer it would have went. I can't remember if this is before or after the interaction, but I don't think in the book Ralph ever renounces his authority to Jack. Because I remember him saying, like, here's the conch, like, you're in charge now. I don't think he ever does that. I think he kind of holds his own, which is an interesting change. But I think it kind of fits, because obviously, what does Ralph represent?
Yeah. I just realized something we kind of skipped over was the entire bridge thing before.
Yeah, yeah,
This
yeah.
was like in episode 3, when Ralph kind of confronts Jack on being like, "Look, it's okay to be scared." Like, kind of before Jack goes crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, which I bring up now because it does become semi important later in the episode, because that is the moment where Ralph realizes Jack is not like, he just wants to be seen. Jack is not actually like this. He is someone else who is putting on a show, essentially.
He's putting on
He's putting,
paint and
yeah, he's putting on
masks.
a face. Yep. Um, but they go trade the conch, and uh, this part I thought was interesting because Piggy's blind. They start fighting because Roger has been left in charge and Jack is nowhere to be found,
Bad
which
idea.
which
Roger's
is
the last
crazy,
one you want to leave in charge.
because Jack hit the entire time has been seen as like the least amount reasonable voice, and we just realized that someone more
It's Roger.
unreasonable is Roger,
And we
and
get that
he's
later with
there.
the twins too, and they're like, listen, I know you want to talk to us, but you don't understand. You gotta go. This
Oh,
guy is
well,
insane.
I thought that part was crazy, which we'll get into. But they start brawling. The twins immediately get thrown on the
They
ground,
get
and like
clapped.
one of them their arm gets broken, and they're
Mm-hmm.
just like, there's actually a really intense scene, which I thought was crazy because I want to know how, I would like to know how the child actor felt. There's one scene where one of the twins is getting like this shoved into the sand, like his head keeps getting like lifted and pushed down into the sand, and like it is like, whoa, this is again another one where it's like, wow, this is super brutal, and I think they could have maybe capitalized it on it a little bit more, going back into our gripes with episode 3 and like the not really embracing the TVMA to kind of show the depravity of these
Yeah.
kids. But Piggy, well, not being able to see, finds the conch, and the last thing he says when he grabs it is, "I have the conch," and then Roger swiftly chucks a rock at the back of his head, breaking order, because
Order, yeah.
Piggy drops the conch, he breaks order, and now your logic and reasoning is out of the door too, because he is unconscious.
Now, to reference an absolutely abysmal, honestly, possibly the worst show in TV history, Loki Season 1, the timeline now splits into 3 sections. You have the book, you have the movie, and you have the show. So, to start with the
Okay.
movie, this is how it happens. The rock hits him, and Piggy dies right there. Um, Absolutely
Ooh.
nothing after that. Let me read you another passage from the book, which is easily one of my favorite. And it's literally right where you leave off. The rock struck Piggy, a glancing blow from chin to knee. The conch exploded into 1,000 white fragments and ceased to exist. Piggy, saying nothing, with no time for even a grunt, traveled through the air sideways from the rock, turning over as he went. The rock bounded twice and was lost in the forest. Piggy fell 40 feet and landed on his back against the square red rock in the sea. His head opened, and stuff came out and turned red. Piggy's arms and legs twitched a bit, like a pig's after it had been killed. Then the sea breathed again in a long, slow sigh. The water boiled white and pink over the rock, and when it went sucking back again, the body of Piggy was gone. Bruh. That is
That is
brutal. And it's
Not
described
only
so
is that,
childishly too. It's like, yeah, some red
yes,
stuff came out of his head.
that's what I was gonna say. Of the passages you've read, that is the most and least descriptive, which is a interesting feat to accomplish. But yeah, just saying like stuff came out of his head. It's red and pink. It
Or and
is
just
that is
describing
good.
the froth of like the water, because obviously like as waves crash, it's like white, and you're like that starts
Yeah.
turning pink, and you can see it all, and it's quite disturbing. Also, you talk about how the beast came out of the sea. This is like the last major kill, and it ends in the sea, which I think is
Hmm.
pretty neat.
That's pretty good. Um,
So, and
I
again, going back to earlier with the pilot getting pushed off the cliff, I was like, oh, they're setting this up early, like about Piggy getting kind of falling off the cliff,
oh
and then I was like, oh, that doesn't happen at all. But we can
yeah, I
talk
don't know
about
how I
that
feel about
change
that.
later because I was kind
Hmm.
of upset when I saw it. I thought, I skimped out. But the more I think about it, I was like, you know what? They're putting a lot more time, especially in Ralph. Like they get a lot of scenes with Ralph and his
Hmm.
backstory, and him getting to talk about it with Piggy. And you think about it, like the outcome is the same as well. It is incredibly unceremonious in the book, which I appreciate a lot. But Piggy still dies in this version, and it's still pretty unceremonious. But you have the theme of like he does get buried, which is what he was pushing for the pilot. You have a lot
Yeah.
of ways that I think are so strong, and I almost like it more in some instances. And that's what I meant when I said I think both work really well. I just think they
Hmm.
both work, and it's hard for me to say one is better than the other.
I thought this part was really strong as someone who hadn't read the book because you they don't show that the rock hit him on the head. You just
Mm-mm.
see a rock get thrown and he falls to the ground. That could hit him in the back. That could still resolve in like serious life-changing injury,
Some
but it
Baylor
doesn't lead to
stuff, bro.
it doesn't necessarily lead to death. Yeah. Like if he got hit in the back, maybe he can't walk anymore, but like he is still going to live. But he falls to the ground. Ralph immediately stops tussling with Roger, trying to save the twins. Grabs Piggy and starts hauling him away. He gets away, and it's not until that scene when they're hiding in the brush in the bushes that we get this really. I really like this scene. I don't know about you,
I
but
love.
it's Ralph looking at Piggy, and we're seeing it from over Ralph's shoulder, and they're talking, and Piggy's just he's like heavy breathing. You can tell he's injured, and he just says, "Am I bleeding?" And then we cut to behind Piggy, and it pans over,
His
and we
neck
just see,
specifically. You see it
yes,
like
we just
dripping
see
down his neck.
his neck is covered in blood, and you just see it on Ralph's face, and he goes, "Yeah, but you're gonna be okay." And then from
Oh,
there, it's just a lot of talk about he's feeling cold. My hands feel like wood, that kind
I
of
was
going back to the
thinking so
Baylor.
much of Night of the Seven Kingdoms there. I was like, dang, the best two shows this year have a very similar scene.
Uh, and I was actually a little mad. This scene got me going so much that when Ralph said, I'm gonna go find us water," and you can tell, I like again, Piggy is a very smart character. He knows he's dying. He
Mm-hmm.
knows he's dying. But they neither of them want to say it. Neither of them want to admit that Piggy is going to die and he is dying and there's nothing they can do. And so when Ralph's like, "No, I'm gonna go find you water because you're thirsty," and he's like trying to deny this thing,
Yeah, I feel like it's part
I
of him
I
wanting to
thought,
escape. Again, escape
uh-huh,
logic and reason, right?
I thought he was gonna come back and Piggy was gonna be dead, and I was going to be pissed. Like I need like I think the final scene of them holding hands as Piggy dies
Dude, I was
or
tearing
as they
up.
fall asleep. It got me. It was really good. And then again, during this whole time, Roger and Jack and Maurice are chasing down Ralph, and he takes the time to bury Piggy, which
It's
is
what
a
he
very
wanted.
it's what Piggy wanted, and it's a very risky scene to do, thing to do. And I think that might be something that this again, don't know the book. Um but like something you could really accidentally do when adapting this is it is a very like imagistic allegory heavy analysis of society.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, logic has to go for this analogy to make sense. And logic kind of can go unceremoniously in the book, but I think kind of still having the analogy but keeping adding more character relations was a super powerful point, because Jack didn't kill Piggy, but Jack's way of thinking killed Piggy by Roger killing Piggy, and that is something that Ralph will confront Jack on at the end of the episode, which is,
Mm-hmm.
I think, really powerful now that we know how close they were.
I This is Ralph's episode, and even though it's like there's more Piggy than there was, that just adds to Ralph a lot.
Hmm.
And their conversation is easily one of the strongest scenes. We're talking about the changes with Simon and how I feel like you need to add more to justify it. Not that changes are bad, but especially when you're messing with one of my favorite things about the book, which is Simon and the Lord of the Flies encounters. And this part, that passage, is the line that I read to you, is the line I remembered the most vividly after reading it the first time. It's one of those that you read and you're like, what?
Yeah.
I went, you double take and you go back and you're like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, I must have misread something. And then you go back and you're like, oh my goodness. And that's my holy cow there. You can't really touch that. And when they did, I didn't really know what to think, but they justify it and they do it really well and it adds to everything. And it that's really hard to do. It's really special. And I think again, that doesn't make the bit from the book any less impactful to me. I still love it and I don't necessarily think this is better, but I think it works still really well. And it accomplishes what they're trying to do, which is be a little more character focused instead of just like you said, where everything is a symbol. Like there are characters in the book, but I can tell in the show they're still really trying to make everyone like a character.
Yeah, they're definitely taking more care to it. Um, and I think it again that it was a very emotional scene, and honestly, it like it had enough build up, but it wasn't overly forced. It wasn't like
No.
a I think a big mistake you have in a lot of stories, especially modern movies, is they kill off characters and they'd be like, "Yeah, hey, look, didn't you care that this guy died?" And it's like, "No, not really, because you just kind of wrote them to be a plot device the entire time, and that was their purpose, and they fulfilled it." But like, there's another scene that I really loved when Piggy's dying before he dies. Piggy says to Ralph something along the lines of, or well, Ralph says, "I'm sorry, I told them that you, I told them that you're called Piggy." Because
Oh yeah, I love that.
another big thing in this episode that we haven't really mentioned is
He's not calling him
Piggy.
Piggy anymore.
Yeah, he calls him Nicky. He's called him Nicky the entire time since episode 3. After they break off when Jack's not there anymore, and I think I would have to watch again. I think Ralph hasn't been calling Piggy Piggy for a long time. I think it's just everyone else is calling him Piggy. Because there's early on, there's a scene in episode 1 when they first meet. Ralph says, or Piggy tells Ralph, "Well, you can call me whatever, just don't call me what they called me." And he's like, "What did they call you?" "They called me Piggy." And then I think it's later on in like episode 2 or 3 even, where Piggy tells Ralph,
You
"My
said,
name's Nikki.
yeah,
I go by Nikki." And from then on, episode 1, Ralph quickly reveals that he's called Piggy because he has no idea else to call him, even though he asked not to be called that. And it pays off in this episode with he's been calling him Nicky the entire time, even now in front of the other kids, to the point where Simon asks who's Nicky.
yeah,
And they have the scene where Ralph
yeah.
apologizes and Piggy says, "I never forget a face, but I'm willing to forget this one." basically saying
Solid
like,
line.
yeah, he's basically like, you know what, I'll forgive you because you were a true friend. And it is a very touching line, especially mixed in with, I think, some of the elements of Ralph's backstory that we learn about. He's already suffered death.
His
It's kind of
parents
like
are
a,
crazy.
yeah, it's he has already kind of lost his innocence in a sense where he has faced something none of the other kids can have, and he just faced it two more times.
And trials honestly what kind of makes you a leader, and him starting out kind of as a natural leader. I think it is important to add that in to kind of explain why he is that way, because he's already gone through a lot of circumstances that put him in a spot where he could grow from them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the backstories were great. I think it showed a lot of Ralph's character with the line between him and his father, where obviously his father is trying to get him out of the house so he's not having to see his mother dying of pneumonia all the time.
Yeah.
But that's not what Ralph wants. Ralph wants to make his mom happy, and that selflessness really is shown in Ralph throughout the series.
And again, all the acting is so insane. It's so good.
Oh,
And it makes you a little sad because episode 1 is so strong with Piggy. And during 2 and 3, you're like, yeah, I'm really digging this, but I'm just not getting as much Piggy as I'd like. And then I just think it's really
hmm,
neat to kind of bring him back just for one last hurrah before he's sent off, and you get to spend a little more time with him because he's really fun to spend time with.
yeah. And you also have um yeah, he, I think it's another change that they did with Piggy, his singing and his uh references to a comedian, Groucho Marx.
Yeah, I don't
Um
remember any of that in the book.
his last line is when I woke up there was an elephant in my pajamas and I shot it. I don't know how it got there, which is a line when spoken can have two meanings. Um where Piggy is saying there when I woke up, there's an elephant in my pajamas. Is the elephant wearing the pajamas or is Piggy wearing the pajamas and the elephant's in there with him? And it's just kind of this line that's ambiguous on like what did he mean? But I think it goes to show like um just the ambiguity that can happen in very in like situations where logic can't really help you figure that one out. It's you need to use other senses essentially.
Yeah. So solid. This was one of the moments that won me over quite a bit. I was very, very,
It
very
was
happy after this, and we're about to get another one at the very, very end that I'm very good to talk about. But Ralph
Mhm.
goes back. He's hiding in the bushes like Simon was, except he has found that the twins are now helping out under the cruel thumb of a Roger, a maniacal Roger.
and this was interesting because he doesn't even seem to want to save them. He's just like, I want to tell you that like Piggy died. Like this is very
I
bad.
almost wonder if that's his way of being like, I can't convince them. I can't use logic, so I'm gonna appeal to emotion a little bit. Piggy's dead.
Yeah, that could be it. But the twins don't want to kill him. They try to get him out, but
No, yeah.
he takes too long,
And it makes you
and
wonder
Roger.
too. They don't want to, and it's like, how many people do, outside of like Roger and Jack? Like, how many people truly hate Ralph, or are they just
Well,
blindly following authority?
I don't even know if it's hate. Uh, and we can loop back around to this later with the ending, but I think there's something else going on with Roger, and obviously I think they've kind of gone too far down a path, and they're kind of it's harder to go back to the, like using like using a religious analogy. It's hard to get back on the right path when you've gone down the wrong one, but it's possible. Um, and I think that's kind of the situation that Roger, Jack, and Maurice are in, to the point where they see Ralph as like a someone who is trying to stop what they have, even though he has no chance of stopping what they have. It is a 1v however many kids are left on the island.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. There's a It's a scene where like Jack is about to torture Wilfred in the book, and Roger is like really thinking about, because Roger really likes how Jack's um his cruelty, I guess, is effective at getting results, and he over and I if I remember correctly, I don't think he really agrees with Jack like torturing him, but the more that he thinks about it, he's like starting to understand how like authority can be bad, but then he still ends up just being like this crazy guy that goes on to kill Piggy after that. I don't remember if that's in
Hmm.
the show. Again, that was a while ago, but I'm trying to
That
think back to all the Roger moments, cuz Roger's definitely, I feel like there's more Roger potentially in the show than the book, but
they do not show a torturing scene. I
no, it's Jack is like planning to, and he's like telling Roger, and Roger's like, uh
Who are they trying to torture?
his name's Wilfred. I think he's one of like I can't remember, because I did write
I do
this
not remember a
down.
Wilfred.
Because I was going into
But
Roger. I was trying to remember all the Roger bits outside of like him being an absolute menace. And I was like, is there any
yeah, I don't know if they did anything like that because they do show off very quickly that Roger is willing to mess with the kids to scare them for
mm-hmm.
like just his own pleasure in like episode 2. So I'd be very surprised for him to be like,
Who is
"Oh,
Wilfred? Let
that's
me
a
look
little
it up.
overkill."
Because I have the quote here. I'm just trying to remember.
But that does sound like vaguely familiar. I feel like there was a line where I think there is a scene where Jack suggests doing something very like rash and like overly like aggressive, and Roger does say, "Hey, why do we need to do that? Like we could
Okay.
like it would
It's
get
in chapter
results, but
10, so
like
near the end of the book. He's just one of the boys in the choir, and Jack ties him
uh
up, and he's like about to beat him irrationally. He's bound for hours, and then he orders him to be beaten. And there's not really a clear reason in the book, from what I'm reading.
I think
Yeah, that's just not in the show,
wait.
is it?
No, but they do no, they don't have that, but they do have a line when they go to see before Piggy dies, when they go to see them, Jack's gone and they talk to Roger, and Roger says something along the lines of, "Oh, I realized under Jack how powerful, like how how fear can lead to power."
That's got to be
And
it.
they do say he says something like that, but they don't show it. They just have a Roger say it in a more uh elegant way about how fear can lead to him being powerful, and he liked that.
Bro, I'm in the wiki, the fandom, for Wilfred. It says Wilfred is a child in Lord of the Flies. It is unclear if he's a big one or a little one. He is believed to have below average health. And I could just imagine his health bar, and it's like halfway. That's all they have on him.
He has 1 point in vigor. He
Yeah,
is
bro.
not
His health
tanking
his
any
health
hits.
stats are definitely not a strength build. Unfortunately. Below average
More
health stats. That's crazy.
he's put it all in dex and stamina.
Man,
But
shout out Wilfred.
yeah,
Maybe he was the real one.
maybe who knows. I feel yeah, they didn't really touch on a lot of the choir boys other than Jack, Roger, Maurice, and Simon,
Yeah.
which I think was fine
Yeah, oh
because
yeah.
honestly, after they take off the choir boy clothes, I could really not care who was the choir boy because the only thing that is important to know about them in this is
Well, they abandon
that
that
they
tribe
already
and make their
support.
own.
Yeah, that they support Jack. So, um, but everyone does at the end at this point. So then they start chasing Ralph again as Ralph runs away. Um, he had been running from them for a while. He got hurt. He can't really run that well anymore.
Mm-mm.
But he is preserving his own life and he's not trying to take anyone else's. And then he runs into Jack and he does toss a rock at him, which seems to do nothing other than grab his attention, even though it hits him in like the back of the head. And really cool part about this scene, those kids choreographed the fight themselves and did
Oh,
it.
nice.
Um, it is I don't well I think they had obviously someone help them choreograph it, but they did not have any stuntmen. They were doing the choreography themselves, and you can see parts of it in the making of the Lord of the Flies. And I thought that was really cool. It looked very good. Their little scuffle, and then this is another important part. Going back to the bridge scene in episode 3. Uh, this is when Ralph confronts Jack and says, "Hey, if you want to be a leader, you can be the leader. I don't want this. I don't want to lead this anymore.
Yeah,
Like
that's a
I
new
don't want to
addition,
lead
and I think it
what
works.
this is." And I think it works because it's not Ralph um like bowing the knee to Jack. It's Ralph trying to compromise with Jack because Jack just does want he wants attention. He wants to feel important, which is ironic because there's a scene later when they're trying to smoke out the area to reveal where Ralph is. Jack doesn't want to do something, and Roger says, "No, we need to do this," and Jack does it. So
Yeah.
Jack is not the leader. Jack is not the one that if he says he doesn't want to do anything, he would get usurped by Roger very quickly.
Roger the Menace, the Terror.
The terror, Roger. But they have that fight and then Ralph runs away, leads to them combing the area and smoking him out.
Logic again, just gone. Like what a stupid
Yeah.
idea. We're gonna smoke him out.
Well,
Impulsive
they set the entire island on fire again,
and
which
like
I mean,
naturalistic, like a care for the
yeah.
environment and innocence, like Simon, also just gone. There,
Mhm.
this is the final form. This is their ultimate phase here of just
Cuz
this is complete ruin and depravity. It's gone.
mhm. They can't think far enough ahead to realize that this would have literally cut out every food source they have.
Yeah.
If this fire did not make the boat see them, they would have died. And honestly, it's still chance because the boat saw the fire, but the only reason they found out about the boat is because Ralph took a gamble and ran through the smoke and the fire to try and escape, and that's when he saw the like little dinghy that had pulled up to shore.
Yeah. And this is when we get to another one of probably like a top 3 favorite scene is with the general. And if I
Hmm.
remember right in the book, I think he's a lot less just appalled. He's kind of there. He's like general man, and it's again like the William Golding was in the military, and he's written like just a jolly old Navy captain. He's like, oh no, boys, what's going on? Oh, people
Hmm.
died. That sucks. Get on my boat. We're gonna go away and we'll get you hooligans back. And here, he's like hearing what's going on. He's like, nobody died, did they? And Jack's like, two. And the guy goes,
And then he says probably more, possibly more. Well, no, I think he says it the other way. I think he says possibly more, probably more died. Uh, which I think is actually a good change in my opinion, because
mm-hmm,
for me, when I first watched this, my immediate instinct, I don't remember exactly what the general said, but my immediate instinct is this is God. This is another religious, to me, it was a religious allegory. Like, this is God at the end of life. And because he says something like, that's what you did. Like, I mean, he says you're all Brits, aren't you? You're all British. I
yeah.
thought you would put on, you should have put on a
Oh,
better show because
absolutely.
you're all British boys. And it's like, this is an allegory for God, and this is like, they're having their judgment. And I think it's very interesting because uh the only one that is deeply hurt by this is Ralph. He's crying. He is very ashamed of what he let happen. Uh, and this is, I think, the point. Going back to Roger, this is, I think, shows how crazy Roger is.
He just kind of
Roger
snaps
immediate.
back.
Roger immediately. This was a game to Roger. He immediately goes, "Oh, cool! We're getting off the island." Where Jack cannot do that. Jack is like, "Oh my goodness, what have I done? We are going back to civilization, and I have led to two people dying at least."
At least, yeah. The snap back from all the boys is really solid. Just the facial expressions, and I think one of them drops a spear. Just kind of drops it like it's a toy, and it's time to come in for
It's
dinner.
Roger.
Is it
It's
Roger?
Roger.
And you're like,
Uh-huh.
oh my gosh, this is insane, and it's shot beautifully too. Like it is. Seeing them all on the beach, and it's very reminiscent of the first scene when everyone gets gathered to the beach. It's like a nice kind of
Yeah.
bookend. I really, really love everything about it.
It
It wraps everything up so neatly.
hmm And yeah. I think another thing that's really important is I don't know if it looks like the general's looking at Jack specifically when he's talking to Ralph, and
A
Jack
lot
is
of the
just
times.
unbreaking. Yeah, he's
Because
just
doesn't he ask who the
unbreakingly
leader
looking
is?
back. Yeah, and Ralph looks back to Jack and then
Yeah.
looks back forward and he says, "Me, I am," and which is another good thing because Ralph could have told
Yeah.
that Jack was the leader, and everyone at that point would have said Jack was the leader.
Because
But Ralph
Ralph is
takes the
truly a
fall.
good like he is the leader in the book. Like he's a good one.
hmm He takes the fall for it. He doesn't let Jack take the fall, even though arguably all the problems came forward when Jack tried to establish himself as a leader. They are not Ralph's leadership issues. They are more so Jack's leadership issues.
Mm-hmm. And just like the book, this is not a happy ending. Like, sure, they get out safe and fine, but it's a lot more complicated
hmm
than that. Like, there's good, but it's so much more realistic and I think symbolic and powerful compared to so many of the things
Yeah.
that we get. Like Daredevil sitting in his jail cell, being like, "Man, this is where I need to be," and Kingpin's out free, and he's like, "Man, I don't know." That's what writers today think of complicated endings and like, oh, it's not a
hmm
pretty ending. Meanwhile, it's like, no, this is actually insane. Like these boys are gonna have to live with this for the rest of their lives, and it's also
And
just so symbolic of. I mean, almost all these characters you can think of someone that you've met that closely embodies a good amount of them.
yeah, I think for me, I didn't actually know how it ended. That was one of the few things I didn't know, which I think is kind of crazy. I just knew it's about the boys make a society and it kind of falls apart. So while watching this episode, I was like, do they end it? Does it end with Ralph getting caught and we just kind of watch them all continue to attack each other even though they killed Ralph or something? Like, do they just are they their own demise? And I still think I still like this ending. I think it's a great ending. I think it is still, like you said, a very complicated ending, and I love that it doesn't give you all the closure you want.
No,
Jack
it
doesn't.
can't.
Jack doesn't give. Jack gives in the changes that they made. Jack gets an opportunity to admit fault, but instead he says, "You did this, Ralph. You did this." He can't accept
And that's set up
that he
really,
did
really
this.
well throughout the whole thing. When Piggy or Ralph will say something to him, he's like, "No, take it back right now, or I'm gonna hurt you." Like he hasn't changed.
Yeah,
He hasn't. It's actually
and
a more extreme version of all of that.
he doesn't say anything. A lot of the kids are talking, not like in like we could understand it. Like it's just idle chatter when they're getting rescued. Jack doesn't say anything. Jack is just battling with it internally, and like we don't see how that ends for him. We don't get that closure. Ralph is obviously battling with this internally too, but he's more verbal about it. And we also, it's not like the general goes, "Hey kid, look, 20 of you died. There's still 30 of you left. You did great. You kept 30 kids alive for months." He doesn't say that.
Yeah.
He is pissed at these kids. And I think that is like, it's a harsh reality, but like it is one that Ralph can handle. And like it sucks, but it is still a very good like foil to the end of it.
And it is thinking about Jack again too. You think back to the scene where he has the knife, and he can't use it on Piggy. Like he's kind of frozen. He doesn't know what to do.
Uh-oh.
Oh, you were frozen there at the
Yeah,
exact moment I said frozen. But
I
yeah,
know.
he's this. It's the same kind of deer in headlights. Like he just can't do it. He hasn't learned, which
Hmm.
is too bad.
And I think another thing, I would have to double check. I'm pretty sure you never see Jack drop the spear. Where like
That'd
we're
be
talking about how
It'd be
Roger,
interesting.
he is like crazy, but he immediately drops the spear, which you could interpret that many ways. To me, that's like, oh, he was like just taking advantage of the lack of order, like the lack of a system to do whatever he wanted. But Jack can't let go of the spear, which to me is like there is a part of Jack that does kind of want this some semblance of this like just impulse acting. There's no order because he can't fully give it up.
Yeah, perfect ending for just a really solid show. I felt very very filled and satisfied at the end. Like it was just a full meal, a good 4 hours.
Hmm.
But that is
Yeah.
paced like really really well, and it made me
Yep.
really excited to read the book again, which I didn't really
I
have
know.
time to go all the way through, and I wish I would have had more time to rewatch it. And I'd love to listen to like podcasts about people discussing it, because again, like episodes 1, 2, and 4 are so good, and there's a lot of things I like about 3, and I know we spent most of our time dogging on 3, but I feel like there's something I had to have missed, because like it's the
Hmm.
same people that worked on it, and like I feel like there might be something else. And I'd just be curious to hear more people's thoughts on it. But all around, I was just really, really. This is a gem. It is a gem that is just buried, and it's so sad that no one is talking about it.
Yeah. It and like it to me, it's 4 hours. It
It's
is
four
like
hours. It's a long
it's
movie.
15. It's literally. I think it's 4 hours even because I think it's 59 minutes, an hour and 1 minute, an hour and 1 minute for episodes 1 through 4. Uh, Two movies. Watch it over a weekend. I watched it in 2 nights. I just did 2 hours one night, 2 hours another
Yeah.
night.
Oh, random thing
It's
that we forgot to mention though. The opening, like the title cards. What did you think about
oh
those? Just
I
before I
I
forget.
loved it.
Yeah, I like those a lot.
Um, I liked how they kind of descended into madness and they
Yeah,
played into kind of the opening of the episode.
they're cool.
Um, they have like they have like radio static that kind of goes silent. Um, yeah, sound design all around.
Yeah.
Uh, very great. They ended like using a single person in a choir, only one of the choir boys. Great. It's awesome. Um, yeah, it's it's very good.
Just
Very
like
good.
most classic books, like the ideas behind it are incredibly relevant to just today. Like
Hmm.
whether it's a job, whether it's a class, whether it's a friend group, like societies and order, and how groups of people function, whether it's kids or adults, is a very complicated thing that can often lead to a lot of very messy issues, and it's a very real story. It's a story I love dearly that is not very long. Like it gets its point across relatively quick, and
Hmm.
I feel like the show was actually able to capture the things that made the book special. I do, and
And
I'm
he,
proud of them for it.
yeah, and to even add, I think in my again haven't read the book, but from my understanding, add some things that can like just enhance the experience.
Hmm.
Um, it is a it is a beautiful, beautiful 4 hours. You are watching, like we said in the beginning. So they were describing him as a painter. He sets scenes really well.
He does.
Obviously, we talked about some issues with like focus and like fisheye lenses, and those are
It's really artsy a lot of
aspects.
the time.
It it is, but there's scenes where like
It works.
I think it's in episode 3 or 4. I think it's after Simon dies, maybe in episode 3 or sometime in episode 4 when there's chaos. They just show the like it's just camera work of like a destroyed beach. There's like coconuts laying around. There's like food left and like flies getting at it, and just showing the destruction that these boys left behind.
And
And
then
it's
you
like,
actually see Simon floating in the
yeah,
water with all the marks all over his body, just kind of flapping in
yeah,
the water.
super beautiful. They used the red a lot. Again, it was super beautiful, and it made like it made the forest feel evil. Like it was
It
like
looks
again,
sick.
it made me think like maybe there's an aspect of this where it's like going to the religious allegory. The world makes like you're born into the world, and the world can make you evil, but you have to like rise above it. Um, it's really beautiful. A lot of good special effects and makeup. They use CGI for I think the pigs and like the monster, the beast when they see the beast in that one scene.
Yeah.
But other than that, I'm pretty sure it's mostly practical. And they filmed it all in Malaysia. No sound stage with a green screen.
Yeah, easy recommend. I really do hope this one gets talked about more, and honestly, I do hope
Hmm.
that I know the people that did see it will remember it because I think this one I plan to revisit again, obviously at some point. It's one I hope
Easy
more people get a
rewatch.
chance to see, and it'll easily go down as probably a top 3 show of the year. I don't think
Yeah,
this and Night of the Seven. I think I've locked their spots as top of the year for sure, if not the decade.
yeah. And the thing that scares me that I want to mention, uh,
Oh,
a limited series. I'm worried that if you do not watch it now, it will get pulled. Because again, like, just watch it. Don't wait. It's 4 hours. It's good stuff.
yeah. I don't know if it'll get pulled. Even if it does, I know BBC I guess helped make it, and they'll find a
Yeah.
way to.
I've just never seen it say when you click onto something, it says watch the new this limited series.
Oh
And I
really?
noticed
No,
that
no,
when I
no.
watched it.
It's
Yeah.
it's no, they don't pull those. Limited just means
Oh,
like
okay.
there won't be more.
Oh, okay,
Like
that
it's
makes
limited
sense.
in its
But
scope. Chernobyl is a limited
yes.
series on HBO.
Okay.
Like we're not getting
Well,
Chernobyl 2. Yeah, definitely
even
watch.
still, go watch it. Watch it again. Spend a weekend. Share it with share it with everyone. Watch it in 4 hours
Agreed.
instead of watching Mandalorian and Grogu or something. I don't know.
Oh no, we have to watch that on my birthday.
Dub.
Wow. What a
We're
way to
gonna have
celebrate life with Mandalorian and Gurgum and
we have so
Guggenheim.
much to talk about. We have so much to talk about. I think now that we're doing this,
The unfortunate thing
Obsession.
is the kind of cool thing about oh yeah, Obsession's crazy too, and that'll be a good one to talk about because I feel like that one's getting a lot of talk, but not like if you look at its box office, it's not making a crazy amount. Like I feel like it's still a little under the radar, and this show's a little
Hmm.
bit under the radar, and then you get stuff like Mandalorian where we could talk about it, but everyone's gonna talk about it, and I don't think it's really a hot take. But this one, I feel
Yeah.
obligated because it's something I really appreciate. based on something that I truly adore. And
Hmm.
Obsession's pretty cool too. I just don't know how much more we can add to that conversation that hasn't been said.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know how much I could add to it either. I just really loved Obsession, but yeah,
I did too,
with
holy
this
cow.
one, honestly, it been a good year for TV show adaptations so far. Now we just
What?
gotta,
Oh, I guess. As far as like
uh,
book ones go.
yeah,
Yeah.
Night of the Seven Kingdoms and this Lord of the Flies. We'll see if that gets ruined later on with House of Dragon and Rings of Power.
The Rings of Power is not based on anything. That's just.
Oh, I thought it was based on like the Silmarillion or whatever.
It's based on some of the appendices, but like they're. It's so distant from it. I think it's. You can't call
They're
it
just
an
doing whatever they
adaptation. I
want.
don't think they
Okay.
care. An adaptation, you
Did
have to
not
care
know.
about the source material, and I don't really think they do.
But the Hunt for Gollum, that's probably
I do plan on making a video leading up to that about dissecting Gollum as a character and why there's nowhere else they can go. There's no
and
need.
torturing torturing yourself by playing
I'm halfway through.
a
I
freaking
need to scrub through
Gollum
the first
game.
7.5 hours of that footage, but I do have the other half. I might do it on Memorial Day or something. Yeah,
But
it's
yeah,
there's moments of fun in there, but not too many.
that's good. That's good. Yeah, I think we've run through our thoughts on Lord of the Flies.
Invite my roommate back into the room. Keep kicking
Let
him
him
out. I feel
enter.
bad. He's the one that
Yeah,
told me about it actually, because I'd been looking forward
about
to a
Lord of the
Lord of the Flies
Flies.
show, but he was like, "Did you know there's a new Lord of the Flies show?" And I was like, "Wait, I've been hearing about this for years. Is it finally out?" They stealth dropped it. It wasn't marketed at all. Shout out Ezra. He loved it, by the way. 8 out of 10 is what
It's
I
good.
gave it. That's a good 4 stars. Is kind of where I'm at, despite
Yeah,
my few issues with it.
I think I would do 4.5, but I also can't be affected by the source material because I did not know it. Um, but yeah, solid 4.5.
Heck yeah. Well, thanks for everyone who decided to take a listen. Hopefully, you watch Lord of the Flies. It's good.
Mm.
Until next
Yep, we'll
time.
have.
Until next time. Maybe we'll do a He-Man
We
recap.
should.
We'll
I
review
mean,
the original show, the first 2 seasons.
oh, I'll have to.
We'll
I'll have to
we'll
watch
rank
it.
all of the lessons at the end of the episode.
That sounds good. I mean, with the amount of times me and you go to the movies, we could have endless content. But
We could.
it is a question of what do I have to add that hasn't already been
Or how much time do I have?
said. That too. How much time do I have?
Working's class are kind of wild, but that's almost done.
Yeah,
Cool.
but good show.
Good show.